What up, everybody? Good morning and happy Wednesday. Dan Kasper Show is on the air. Radio dials, couple of those, 105.1 FM, 790 AM, online at sportstalk1051.com. You got your Google and Alexa home devices, the Sports Talk app, video stream, also up and rolling on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. How you doing on this Wednesday morning? Already making a turn on this week, halfway through the work week here. And what do we got on the game plan here this morning? Well, Brewers falling last night 7-2 because all we do is jinx everybody and everything on this program after, giving some love to Adrian Hauser yesterday and talking about, the guys only giving up one walk per game and not a bad couple outings, and, well, that completely jinxed it last night as the Brew Crew falling to the Toronto Blue Jays 7-2, and Adrian Hauser not having a good outing last night. Just a little over 4 innings, giving up 11 total hits, the most by a Brewers pitcher thus far this season. So, yeah. Blue Jays, a total of 14 hits on their 7 runs. Even Mr. Dalton Varsho getting in on the hit parade, collecting a hit last night. But nonetheless, Brew Crew dropping game 1 of this series. They'll try again tonight at 6:07. We'll preview that and look ahead to that game. So yeah, Brewers right now just 1 up in the division over the Pirates. I know there was some, was it on MLB Network last night, John Hyman talking about some potential starting pitchers that could be moved by the trade deadline, which, I mean, there's still some time for that, but Corbin Burns is going to be a name that is going to be continued to be rumored or speculated or thrown out there as a possibility to be moved by the trading deadline. I mean, we've got some baseball left to be decided here, but I don't know. It's kind of a Brewers are kind of in an interesting situation, dilemma, however you want to phrase it. I mean, they could be going into the month of June here, maybe still in first place in the division, but by only a game or maybe less than that, maybe only a game or 2 games over 500. I mean, they don't look like a World Series caliber team, so they'll have to make some decisions by the trade deadline, whether they feel like they can get a big package in return, or maybe they want to stick with a guy like Freddie Peralta and be like, hey, look at, even though they didn't win it last year, but, maybe look at a team like Philly, just get hot at the right time, make a run in the postseason, and then maybe you could advance to the World Series. It's going to be an interesting next couple of months here as we get to the trade deadline to see where the Brewers are going to be at competitively, where they're at in the standings and such. And then, you kind of factor in last year with the whole Josh Hader, trade before the deadline and that effect that it had on the team, whether that will have any bearings on whether the Brewers make any moves this year or not. It's a new GM, Matt Arnold and such, but Matt Arnold was obviously a part of the discussions with the Hader trade last year. So got some time yet, but already kind of being thrown out there and such. So we'll hit up some baseball chat here. Joining us at 7:30. We got a little under a month now from when about a month, I should say. The U.S. Senior Open is going to be at Stevens Point, Century World over there. NBC golf analyst Mark Rolfing will be joining us at 7:30. Give a little bit of a preview of that. He's over at Century World this week, over in Stevens Point, getting ready for the U.S. Senior Open, kind of doing a little bit of scouting of the golf course, if you will. So we'll catch up with him and maybe see how he likes Steve Stricker's chances. Steve Stricker winning this past weekend. Can the Wisconsin boy pick up another major championship on the Champions Tour on the senior level? So we'll visit with Mark coming up about an hour and 15 minutes now from now, 7:30 here this morning. We will do, maybe we'll do a little sports vigilante because we kind of doing a little bit of an audible here this morning. And that's where we're going to lead things off here on the leadoff. And I'm just going to say this right away. I am one of those who, and I don't know if any of you listening right now has like Twitter or pays attention to anything on Facebook or online. I'm one of those too. It's like, okay, Rodgers is no longer with the Packers. There's like Packers news, which they are like, and I get a lot of it is just automatically fed and such, but still, it's like guys no longer on a team. Does accounts like the Packers news have to tweet dudes at Taylor Swift concert? Aaron's dancing at the Taylor Swift concert. It's like, okay, guys, dude's not on the team anymore. Okay, I get it. One of the best to ever suited up, will be one of the best to ever go down in Packers history. Still relevant, it's still kind of fresh, but from a Packers news account, I don't really care whether the guy's dancing around at a Taylor Swift concert. So I've got a little fatigue. However, this dropped about an hour this morning. I already had a chance to read it all from The Athletic, Matt Schneidman, who covers the Packers, with a pretty interesting piece. Now, it is a subscription-based, obviously The Athletic is a subscription-based article, so you do have to pay to read it. But I got you covered. I've got you covered. I read it this morning. And, well, he talked to Aaron because he had heard, some rumors, maybe some stories about how it all went down the last 3 years with Aaron Rodgers and the Packers and such. And, Aaron decided to talk to him, and we've got possibly some interesting stuff, including, allegedly, and one Aaron Rodgers didn't deny it, a request from a couple years ago from Rodgers' agent to Mark Murphy to fire Brian Gutekunst. So we're going to go through this here a little bit, and I've got a few. Here's the thing, okay? This is going down a path I think a lot of Packers fans didn't want to go down, regardless of how you feel about the Packers front office, regardless of how you feel about Aaron Rodgers, whether you're annoyed by either side or whatever. I think we can all agree, I hope, at least the majority, that we could all agree we didn't want to get into another, finger-pointing quarterback pissed off at the front office annoyed with their starting future Hall of Fame quarterback. We didn't want to go through that again 15 years later like we did in the summer of 2008, right? At least we can all, I think, agree with that, regardless of how we feel towards, our outside viewpoints of the front office or the organization or the quarterback himself, Aaron Rodgers. I think we can all agree we just didn't want to go through this again. The whole drama, right? Can we agree with that? And if you read this, if you had a chance to read it, or if you are going to read it a little bit later on here, it's essentially this. It's Aaron responding to some of the stuff out there and kind of taking some shots again at the Packers front office. Besides one person, which is kind of an interesting person. And I'm going to try to connect some dots here. Okay. Because I think there's some irony from some stuff that goes back a few years ago, right before Goody was hired. And I know I might be kind of grasping at some stuff, but there's some irony in some of this too. And it's a very good piece by Matt Schneidman. I give even Rodgers credit. He had heard, or Matt Schneidman had reached out to him, said, "Hey, I'm hearing this. These are the stories I heard. Would you care to comment?" And I mean, Aaron could have been just like, "No, I'm not gonna." And maybe that's where a lot of people would have just like said, dude, just let it go. Just drop it. We don't need to keep rehashing this. And I get that side too. It's like I'm tired of the whole dang drama and such. I really am. I just want to talk about football. And hopefully when we get close to the season or when the season starts, we can actually talk about football. But until then, and until training camp and maybe preseason, we're going to have more stuff like this. But I think it's at least worthy of looking at and hitting it up and chatting about it. So what I want to do here is kind of go through some of the main points of this write-up by Matt Schneidman from The Athletic and get your thoughts on it. Now, again, I feel like this is probably going to create division amongst Packers fans, which I don't want to see, but it's going to happen. Some are going to pick Aaron Rodgers' side. Some are going to pick the front office or the team side. I don't want that to be the whole thing, but it's going to happen. And I think as Packers fans out there, we don't want to see that happen. We don't want to see that division. But I think we're just all kind of annoyed by it. And with some of the stuff that I'm about to relay to you, if you haven't had a chance to take a look at it, yeah, you're probably going to be maybe doing some eye rolling. You're going to be doing some like sighing. You're going to be, cussing, or you're going to be like, oh, oh Lord, what are we doing again here?
Oh Lord.
Yeah, oh Lord. So ready to do it? Ready to hit it up? Let's do it. So coming up on the leadoff here this morning, we'll take a look at this latest piece from The Athletic, changing it up here a little bit this morning. I know usually baseball season, we'll talk a little Brewers losing last night, but changing it up, I want to get you guys all riled up and start flooding the Shoe Doctors bullpen line with some text with your thoughts on it. So switching it up here a little bit, taking a look at the comments from one Aaron Charles Rodgers about the last 3 years in Green Bay and some of the biggest takeaways that I personally have from it. And I'm curious what and maybe that's what I want to hear from you most. I don't want to have you pick sides. I don't want to create that, but maybe give me what you took away the most. I'll kind of go through some of the highlights. It's not going to be story time. I'm not going to sit here and read the whole thing for you, but I'll go through some of the highlights and I want you to give me your biggest takeaways from this. Now, there's always two sides to every story, right? There's always going to be two sides, and maybe somewhere in between is the truth. But for this morning, we're taking a look at this side because this is the person who's talking right now. So let's take that quick break, and then we'll get the leadoff going, start brewing the coffee. Might have to make it a little Irish this morning with some of the stuff that's I'm about to relay to you, but we'll see. All right, lead off coming up next.
Got a take on today's topics but can't call in? Then hit us up on Facebook, Twitter, or the text line and let your fingers do the talking.
Now that we've been able to get outside and get a little bit more active, have you started to feel those aches and pains again? Maybe it's finally time for you to stop getting that yearly reminder. Reduce your pain and increase your ability to do your daily activities with ease with the help from Chippewa Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine. All you have to do is visit cvosm.com to request an appointment, and the incredible team at Chippewa Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine will help you live that pain-free and healthy life today.
The brands you trust, prices you'll like, the service you'll love every time you buy. Appliances for your home at Amundsen.
More brands, more savings, get more options in May at Amundsen's Appliance. Dishwashers starting at $4.99. Stainless steel French door refrigerators from $14.99. These appliances are in stock and ready for delivery. Make it easy. Come to Amundsen's Appliance in Rice Lake, Eau Claire, Chippewa Falls, and Hayward, or shop us online at Amundsen'sAppliance.com.
Amundsen.
Prescriptions require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for details and important safety information. Subscription required. Price varies based on product and subscription plan.
Hey guys, did you know there's a generic form of Viagra that works just the same, but is 95% cheaper? And you can get it online? Just go to 4hims.com/joy. Through Hims, you'll get a free medical consultation, discreet shipping if prescribed, a 100% online process, and trusted generic alternatives to the name brands at up to 95% off. That's right. Get generic for Viagra, the same active ingredient as brand name Viagra, but for 95% less. It's the same medication, still prescribed by a licensed medical provider, but with zero copay, no expensive appointments, and no awkward face-to-face conversations. To start your free online visit, you need to go to this exclusive address, forhims.com/joy. That's forhims.com/joy for your free online visit. forhims.com/JOY.
All across Wisconsin, destination marketing organizations are working to ensure that tourism in our state and your local community is stronger than ever. Because when you travel in Wisconsin, you see what our beautiful state has to offer. And now, more than ever, you see the importance of the travel and tourism industry and the impact it has on our community's small businesses, infrastructure, and economy. Destination marketing organizations statewide are working diligently to generate the economic benefits tourism has to offer and ensure that tourism in Wisconsin recovers better than ever. Their work to drive visitation, book meetings and conventions, and enhance the visitor experience not only encourages travelers to discover Wisconsin, it bolsters the economy, supports jobs, and it improves the quality of life for all Wisconsin residents. And you can do your part just by exploring Wisconsin yourselves or supporting your local destination marketing organization directly. To learn more about what Wisconsin's destination marketing organizations are doing, visit destinationswisconsin.com.
Sponsored by Destinations Wisconsin.
Cabin Coffee in Altoona isn't just your go-to place when it comes to coffee. It's your go-to place for smoothies, breakfast, and lunch. Cabin Coffee's menu includes a wide range of smoothies, freshly made sandwiches, and tasty breakfast options. And with their portion sizes, you won't go hungry after finishing your meal at Cabin Coffee. So even though you may not be a big coffee drinker, Cabin Coffee has something for you. And you can even have some of their beverages without caffeine. So go give Cabin Coffee a visit today at River Prairie in Altoona.
Economy Furniture in Chippewa Falls is something that you gotta see. The biggest selection for miles around, 2 jam-packed floors of quality. At Economy, you don't have to wait for a sale. It can be yours immediately. Everyday low prices on the best brand names, and we finance it interest-free. Furnishing the Chippewa Valley since 1950. Economy Furniture's for me.
He may not be the smartest sports talk host, but darn it, he gives 110% every time. Now here's your host, Dan Kasper.
Yesterday was a big day in terms of the third annual Kasper Classic. We had a boatload of individual teams sign up. We added a few more sponsors. So big thanks to everybody who has signed up. I mean, I'll tell you right now, we're getting close to filling up the morning session already. That's how we're not even into June yet, and we're pretty darn close to that. So big thank you to everybody who has signed up their teams. Still got a few available for some early bird registration on our website at sportstalk1051.com. And thank you to those of you who have reached out wanting to sponsor, maybe donate for the raffle, all to go help support Backyard Dreams. So more info, you can find it at our website or hit me up with a text and I can send you the link over there too. But I just wanted to give a shout out to everybody, especially yesterday was a good day. Let's hopefully we'll keep that momentum going here so we can make a difference with Backyard Dreams out there. So big thanks to everybody who has signed up and partnered with us so far. That's Hy-Vee, Carpet City Flooring Center, Economy Furniture. We got Service Master, Toyson Ford. Dodge is on there. So big thanks to everybody who are jumping on board with us. August 4th. Princeton Valley too. Got to give Princeton Valley a shout out for letting us hang out there and have some fun and play a little golf on August 4th too. So big thanks to Princeton Valley. All right, let's get things going here this morning on the leadoff. Again, I don't want to make this story time. I'm not going to read the whole article that just dropped a little over an hour ago from The Athletic. Matt Schneidman, who covers the Packers for The Athletic. I just had a chance to read it earlier this morning. I know some of you don't have a subscription. You have to have a subscription to read this article. So you'll have to drop a couple bucks to read it. But I got you covered too. I've read it. I had a chance to peruse it before hopping on the air this morning. So I'm not gonna read the whole thing, but I want to give you my biggest takeaways, and then after we kind of go through them, or the highlights of it, and after we go through them, be curious to hear what your biggest takeaways are from this. So it was, if you follow Matt on Twitter, as he posted what really happened with Aaron Rodgers and the Packers in the 3 years after they took Jordan Love. I heard stories and then asked Rodgers if he wanted to respond. He called me and he had plenty to say. So here are some of the highlights from the piece. And again, you can check out the whole thing by visiting theathletic.com. Let's start off with, we don't need to rehash the whole drafting of Love. We've heard kind of the similar stuff. It was Rodgers' agent, David Dunn, who ironically is Jordan Love's agent. At least I think he still is. I haven't heard anything different. That texted Aaron that he was the first one to let Aaron know that the Packers were drafting a quarterback. So obviously David Dunn would probably know before a lot of other people outside of Green Bay. So he simply texted Rodgers, QB. And Aaron was actually supposed to be making his second appearance on Pat McAfee's show, that draft special that he does, and then canceled it and poured himself a little tequila and waited for somebody to call him. So, to quote Seinfeld, blah, 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 not blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. Fast forward to the 2021 offseason. Remember the 2021 offseason? This was one highlight from the piece from The Athletic. According to a source associated with the team, who was granted granted to be anonymous, to candidly discuss the sensitive dynamics between the front office and the star quarterback early in the 2021 offseason, Dunn, Rodgers' agent, called Packers president Mark Murphy with a request. Fire Brian Gutekunst or trade Aaron Rodgers. Murphy did neither, and then months later, news broke that Rodgers wanted out of Green Bay, but the Packers held firm. We all remember the 2021 offseason, right? And then Matt Schneidman asked Rodgers about the demand. When asked about the demand, Rodgers referred to his agent, who did not reply to the Athletic's request for comment. That, to me, tells me there was the request, okay? If Aaron is saying you'll have to refer to Dunn, there was a request. I think it's simple right there. If there wasn't, if that was just complete baloney and poo-poo, Rodgers has not been afraid in his history, especially in the last few years, to call out what he sees as BS or what he feels is BS, especially when it's pertaining to him, right? He's not afraid to do it. We've seen that. He's voiced that numerous times on his buddy Pat McAfee's show. So, yeah. As it goes on, Rodgers stayed away from the team until days before training camp, late in July. And after, among other things, Goody extended an olive branch by trading for wide receiver Randall Cobb, Rodgers' best friend and former teammate. I was under contract for one, so definitely wasn't going to hold out and let them find me. There were a lot of things that I was hoping were going to change, and they made some promises about things they were going to try and do better. But I just felt like coming back, have a good season, move forward, and just not focus on some of the things that I really felt strongly about. but that may or may not actually ever get done. And then we know after the first practice of camp, that infamous presser afterwards, right, where Rodgers aired his grievances. According to Rodgers, the communication between him and Goody improved somewhat. And then he throws this in here. It still wasn't anywhere near what I've already enjoyed here with the Jets in just a few short weeks. So there you go. You got your first one. It's already better with the Jets. Well, okay. You're in the honeymoon phase, right? You're in the honeymoon phase. Everything is going to be dreamy, perfect. When you start that new relationship, you're all goo goo gaga for each other. Everything is just perfect. You're in the honeymoon phase. Of course it's already better. What are you talking about? But, and this is one of the ironic irony things, another highlight from this piece that kind of stood out to me was that this part here, where it says the Packers believe privately that both parties had moved past the conflict, but that Rodgers felt like Executive Vice President and Director of Football Operations Russ Ball was the only member of the front office who took the message to heart. Rodgers said, Russ definitely made an effort to be more seen, to be a better communicator, to be around more, to interact with the guys more. And I really appreciated his effort to grow and to listen to some of the things I was saying and try and make the culture and the place a better environment. I thought Russ, more than anybody, really showed that he cared and showed a lot of personal growth, and I give him credit for that. The irony of this whole thing is if you go back to right before Goody was hired as general manager for the Packers, there was a report out there. There was a nugget out there that Rodgers, and again, I don't know if this was 100% true, but it was reported that Rodgers did not want Russ Ball as general manager. That he didn't want him as general manager. There was that report out there. Looking more, I guess, for the scouting background, right? Looking for the GM with the more of that scouting background. So the irony in this whole thing, to me, and kind of little, to quote, was the saying, isn't it ironic that if we believe the report from a few years ago that Rodgers didn't want Russ Ball as his new general manager, yet now the only one that he has positive things to say is Russ Ball. There you go. To go back, I forgot this part too. With the drafting of Jordan Love, there was Rodgers had made a mention that guys were telling him that Matt LaFleur looked really happy when they drafted Jordan Love. Looked really happy and all that. And I'm just sitting there thinking, I'm like, okay. That was also the COVID year. So all the draft was all virtual. Cameras are all over the place. I don't think I've ever seen a coach or a GM caught being pissed off after they've made a pick in the draft. I don't think I've ever seen that before. Okay. So I'm just like, really, here we are again, body language and that sort of thing. But the part on there was that apparently that the Packers knew that the pick was going to upset Aaron Rodgers. So what they did was they tried to, he knew he wouldn't be happy with the selection, and to protect the relationship between him and Matt LaFleur, they told Rodgers that the decision to draft Love was strictly Goody's. All right, trying to save the relationship there. So forgot to mention that. I wanted to get back to that one. Now, remember, it was about a week or two ago we had heard Davante Adams talking a little bit more. He was on the I Am Athlete podcast. That's the Brandon Marshall podcast, where he kind of talked a little bit more about his final days with Green Bay and the whole, contract thing. And Aaron kind of added more to it. They offered him, Davante, less money than Christian Kirk, $18 million per year. And Adams is going, are you serious right now? I'm the best receiver in the league, and you're going to offer me less than Christian Kirk? With all due respect, he's not on Davante's level. I'm sure that the team will say that that's just the business of negotiation. It's like, yeah, but you're also sending a message to that guy. And a lot of times it can stick with guys and make them a little sour on things. That goes back to the first offer that they made. And I don't think the Packers had the foresight. Obviously, they didn't have the foresight. I get what Aaron's saying there. I do. I mean, kind of put yourself in that position. Maybe you get an offer and you're like, okay, that I know I'm better than that dude. I'm way better than that dude. And you're offering me less. Some, well, it might piss them off right away. And it's no recovering from it. And they're just going to hold that grudge. And it sure kind of sounds like that's what went down with the whole Davante thing. And then when they made that offer, the reported offer where he was going to make more money, it just, it stuck in his mind about that first offer and just never got anywhere after that. So there you go. Some other highlights. Rodgers didn't show up to voluntary OTAs after the team had drafted Watson and Christian Watson and Romeo Doubs and Samori Toure. This is a part where I know a lot of fans have been a little irritated and upset or criticized Rodgers for never showing up to OTAs. Well, here's Rodgers saying that he didn't feel like his presence was important as important as the team did, saying any progress made during voluntary OTAs is very, very minimal. According to a source associated with the team, the Packers weren't satisfied with Rodgers' commitment and effort, not only during voluntary OTAs, but on a day-to-day basis afterwards. Rodgers takes exception to that thought that the team wanted more from him in the months after giving him the richest contract in NFL history. Rodgers saying, when I'm in, I'm all in. And you want to ride with off-season workouts? Kind of a little Allen Iverson sounding there. Practice? It's all about practice, man. Rodgers went on to say, I won MVP without doing off-season workouts. Like, was my commitment any less then? I'd say not at all. The way that I come back to work, not just physically in good shape, but mentally refreshed, is the best thing for me to have the season I wanted to have during those in Green Bay. I think that's just a cop-out written to try and find something to disparage me about that. Honestly, when you know what off-season workouts are really about, it's completely ridiculous. Now, the whole off-season workout thing wasn't just a thing that has popped up the last couple of years with Rodgers. Go back to when the Packers won the Super Bowl, then it was the strike year. And then remember, like, it was a certain sports personality out there who starts with an S and ends with a Kip, was criticizing Rodgers for not getting his receivers together, getting his team together during the strike and having these offseason workouts like Drew Brees did. And then Packers, Saints, week 1, they open up the season. The offense puts up a bunch of points, and then Rodgers after the game, in his kind of typical, fashion, saying the quote, now can you imagine of, how many points we would have put up if we would have had off-season workouts? Kind of taking a shot that way. So this isn't something that has just popped up the last couple of years. It's been something the last few. Now, Aaron has showed up mostly for every OTA besides the last couple of years here, but can kind of connect some of the dots here. And then, when I saw that, read that part, and I'm thinking, okay, you're downplaying OTAs. You're downplaying developing a connection with your new teammates, these young guys coming in. Yet he's doing exactly what Green Bay wanted him to do. He's doing it right now with the Jets. Right? We can all agree with that, right? What he's doing now with the Jets is exactly what Green Bay wanted him to do last year. He's doing that now. So if you're going to discredit off-season workouts and OTAs, or I should say voluntary OTAs, and calling it, very minimal, you're doing it right now, man. We're getting flooded with videos of you tossing to Garrett Wilson, hanging out with your new teammates and your new tight ends and all that sort of stuff. If it's very minimal, what are you doing? Why aren't you sitting on the beach in California working out on your own like you usually do then, bro? So you can sit there and criticize it. And I've been one to say, yeah, it might be a little overrated here and there, but don't downplay your voluntary time with your team and especially with new guys coming in. Don't downplay that and saying it's not a big deal when you're doing it with your new team right now. You're being hypocritical. Anyways, Rodgers went on to say, I showed up to work. I brought the same commitment, the same type of energy. And obviously there were some trying times and frustration as we went through that losing streak. But we put on a strong run to finish the season and came up short. I feel good about the way I showed up for my guys every single week. And it's convenient now to look at that, but it wasn't a conversation when Russ and Matt and Brian and Mark would thank me for my speeches after games or the way I fought, played, and different things. You can rewrite history all you want, but like I said, I still got the receipts. Throwing that out there. I got receipts. Now, let's go to the whole FaceTime thing again. All right. So Rodgers said that after the season ended, the Packers had told him to take as much time as he wanted to make a decision about his future. Rodgers saying they told him, we want you to retire a Packer. We'll figure everything else out, but we want you to be here. Goody and Rodgers, and this is something we heard about a month ago, I think. Goody and Rodgers agreed to meet in person in Southern California, where Rodgers lives, and where Goody was traveling for the NFL Players Association Collegiate Bowl. They never connected when Goody was out there. Rodgers' excuse, life happens. When I hit him back, he was already out of town. But it wasn't like I hit him back like 5 days later. He hit me up like in the morning of one day, and I hit him up either the night or the next morning or the next day, and then he was gone. It wasn't like there was a date we were for sure meeting at this time in this place. It was like, hey, I'm coming out west. I'm driving, whatever. You want to get together? I said, yeah, I got a busy schedule. I'm working out. I got things going on. I got appearances, but I'd like to make it work too. Okay, dude. You were making it sound like a while back that nobody was reaching out to you. You just admitted Goody reached out to you, and you just admitted yourself you were the one late in responding. But go ahead and downplay it. That's fine. That's fine. And then he mentioned that the FaceTime thing. I have 0 or 1 bar at the house. So you call me. Sometimes it goes through, most of the time it drops and it doesn't go through. Everybody who knows me when I'm out west, they know that's how to get a hold of me. So you can say whatever you want about that, but that's the blanking truth. Can't say that word that he said. Before I went in the darkness, I hit him up and said, hey, there's some stuff swirling around here. We should get together, you, me, and Matt. So, I'm not a technology wizard. Okay, calls don't come in, but apparently texts do. So, texts obviously work here. Phone calls don't. You already admitted saying you're a little lackadaisical in returning some texts. We've all been there. It's like you text somebody. It's like, dude, text me back for crying out loud. And then you get like a day later. You've done it. I've done it, sort of thing. Don't sit there and say the whole FaceTime thing. FaceTime right now is probably, dude, they gotta sign him to an endorsement deal because he is like just piping them up right now. But don't sit there and say FaceTime's the only one that works when you've flat out admitted that texting also works. Roger said he entered the darkness thinking he would retire, but he emerged feeling good about either retiring or continue to play. He contacted Dunn, his agent, who told Rodgers that the Packers had been shopping him. Rodgers then told Dunn to tell Goody he wanted to betray the Jets. And this is where I chuckled when I read this part. This is from Rodgers. Did Brian text me more than I texted him? Yeah. Yeah, I did. Yeah, he did. But did I ghost him? No. I texted him back. There was back and forth that we had. And so this is the story you want to go with? You're going to stand on this hill and say that arguably in the conversation of the best player in your franchise history, you're going to say I couldn't get a hold of him, and that's why we had to move on? Like, come on, man. Just tell the truth. You wanted to move on. You didn't like the fact that we didn't communicate all the time. Like, listen, I talk to the people that I like. Here's my other grind my gears thing with you, Aaron. You preached about communication, about wanting open lines of communication, about always communicating. You preached that how many times? Again, on your buddy's show, Pat McAfee. You talked about it. And now you just come out here and say, you didn't like the fact that we didn't communicate, saying you to Goody. You didn't like the fact that we didn't communicate all the time. Like, listen, I talk to the people that I like. You can't sit there and say or preach about communication and wanting more communication and then coming out and saying, oh, I only like talking to people that I like. You can't be mad about, if we don't communicate all the time. Hypocritical again. Hypocritical again. So, I don't know. It's frustrating. It's annoying. It's drama. And I'm sick and tired that we're here again 15 years later. 15 years later. It's ridiculous. Ridiculous. To sum it up, Rodgers had nothing but nice things to say about Jordan Love. I like Jordan a lot. Jordan's a good dude. It's tough to be a backup behind a future Hall of Famer. You've got to kind of find that sweet spot. I thought he did a great job with that, but he's a good-hearted kid. It's undetermined, his future, but from the physical standpoint, I thought he improved his fundamentals this last year. He gets a chance to blaze his own trails, be his own man, and lead in the way he best sees fit. Take the good things he learned from me, things he would do differently, do them differently. That's what I did when I took over. So there you got it. You can read the whole thing. There's other quotes and comments and that sort of stuff on there, but your biggest takeaways from this. To me, one of the biggest things I take away from it, a lot of hypocritical stuff. Just me. There's always, there's always two sides to a story. And a lot of times the truth is somewhere in the middle of this thing. But for me, when I read this, and I know we just kind of have to base our judgments and thoughts on this article, which Matt Schneidman, fantastic job. But we go back to some of the stuff that Aaron has said recently, and then you read this, and then there's no consistency in it. The message seems to get altered, changed up to fit a narrative sometimes. And it's just annoying. And it's frustrating that we got to this point. I get it from a human standpoint. Guy's upset. Somebody came in and took his job. He wanted to finish his career there. He got upset when the team drafts his eventual replacement. It's different when it comes to a quarterback, right? It's not like, a running back or a wide receiver. We don't talk about that when a team drafts a wide receiver when they've already got one or two on their team about this guy replacing that. It becomes more hyper-focused when it comes to a quarterback. I get it. It's human nature to feel a little irritated, a little disappointed, a little upset. And sometimes it is, I've been there. Pretty sure a lot of us have been there. It is hard to take the high road and just put on a smile all the time and just carry the message of the team every single time and just, say all the politically correct things. It's hard. We don't want to do it a lot of times. But I think my biggest takeaway from reading some of this stuff is, and what just kind of grinds my gears a little bit, if you will, if this was a Grind My Gears Tuesday, is the consistency in the messaging. Don't tell us one thing and go on a hill and preach this one thing, especially like when it comes to communication and the OTAs thing, and then different just a couple weeks later, or do something different than what you were just sitting there and preaching to all of us. That's the thing that just I can't buy. And I'm a Rodgers guy. I've been a Rodgers guy for a long time. I wasn't a Rodgers guy when he was first drafted. I didn't think the guy had it. First couple of years, didn't look like he had it when he was a backup. And I was wrong. I was completely wrong, and I'm glad I was wrong, for crying out loud. But, man, here we are again 15 years later. I just want to talk football. I want to talk about football. I hope we're nearing the end of this. He said, she said stuff. I get it. It's a talking point. We're talking about it. It draws attention and all that, but I just can't wait when we can finally just talk straight up ball, straight up about the team, straight up about football. All right, we got to take a quick break, running a little long, but that's okay. We'll be back in just a couple minutes to finish up this first hour.
The Dan Kasper Show will be right back.
All across Wisconsin, destination marketing organizations are working to ensure that tourism in our state and your local community is stronger than ever. Because when you travel in Wisconsin, you see what our beautiful state has to offer. And now, more than ever, you see the importance of the travel and tourism industry and the impact it has on our community's small businesses, infrastructure, and economy. Destination marketing organizations statewide are working diligently to generate the economic benefits tourism has to offer and ensure that tourism in Wisconsin recovers better than ever. Their work to drive visitation, book meetings and conventions, and enhance the visitor experience not only encourages travelers to discover Wisconsin, it bolsters the economy, supports jobs, and it improves the quality of life for all Wisconsin residents. And you can do your part just by exploring Wisconsin yourselves or supporting your local destination marketing organization directly. To learn more about what Wisconsin's destination marketing organizations are doing, visit destinationswisconsin.com.
Sponsored by Destinations Wisconsin.
Economy Furniture in Chippewa Falls is something that you gotta see. The biggest selection for miles around, 2 jam-packed floors of quality. Don't have it can be yours immediately. Everyday low prices on the best brand names, and we finance it interest-free. Furnishing the Chippewa Valley since 1950. Economy Furniture's for me.
Summer projects are coming up. What's on your to-do list first this year? Well, if I had any say in your to-do list, it would be to update that flooring of yours. Maybe a new carpet in the bedroom, replacing your kitchen floor with some luxury vinyl planks, or some nice tile in the bathroom. Hey, I'm just saying, chances are that you have a room in your house that could use a good floor update. So why not make it easier on yourself with this project and visit my friends from Carpet City Flooring Center? I mean, my own grandma has used them twice in the past year to replace some flooring in her own home. So if my grandma likes them and trusts them, you can too. So why does grandma like them so much though? It's the customer service. Top-notch customer service from when you walk into the store to the install team. Add in the best selection and prices and you have a home run. So take a look at that to-do list this year and move up replacing that floor in your home. Then head to Carpet City Flooring Center in Eau Claire and chat with the awesome team there to find that perfect floor for your home and your budget. Because like my own grandma says to me all the time, because grandma says so.
More than the scores. More than the news. It's Sports Out the Squeaker. The Dan Kasper Show.
Only got a couple minutes to the top of the hour. Reminder, 7:30 this morning, so a little over 30 minutes. We'll be talking with NBC golf analyst Mark Rolfing as Century World and Stevens Point is getting set to host the U.S. Senior Open in just a few weeks. Mark is over there in Stevens Point checking out Century World and surveying the course and getting ready for the U.S. Senior Open coming up in just a few weeks. So we'll chat with Mark from NBC Sports coming up in about 33 minutes or so. We'll finish up the first hour with Morgan here for a couple minutes. Good morning, Morgan.
Hey, good morning, Casper. I know you're kind of putting the kibosh to Rogers talk, which I understand, but did you see that he was at a T-Swift concert?
Yeah.
There was a little bit of gossip. So what's your guilty pleasure concert that you have been to or that you would go to even if people made fun of you for it? Like, because my sister, totally unabashedly 100% huge Hanson fan. Like, she loves Hanson.
Wow.
She
Okay.
went to a Hanson concert when she was like 9 months pregnant, like pop, like super ready to go. And she's like, I can't miss Hanson. So that's her guilty pleasure band. Do you have one that you've been to and you're not afraid to own it, or that you would go to no matter what C-bomb dropped on you?
I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. I'm not a big concert one, but I would say probably the one I want to go to, and I don't think I'd get made fun of, is I've never been to a Foo Fighters one.
Oh, that's legit though.
Right. That's why I said I
nobody's going to throw shade for going to see the Foos. Yeah.
No,
Especially when you're a Grohl fan. You kind of have to. That's almost a bucket list band at this point. It's
Mhm.
kind of creeping into bucket list territory.
Yeah, I know they're getting set because I was going to go when they were in Minnesota, but then Taylor died, so they canceled all their concerts. But they're coming back now. So
And a weird little side note to that, if you're into like 90s grunge rock, like I am, and like my flannel collection indicates, they're pulling the drummer from The Offspring. The Foo Fighters are. So they're
Mhm.
going to have the drummer from The Offspring there.
Yep. Did you have you listened to any of their new tracks from their new album coming out?
No, thumbs up.
I like it.
Yeah, I
Yep.
haven't checked it out yet. I'm crushing on Dave
Yeah.
Grohl always.
It's
though, so.
the one is it Under Me? Obviously is a ode to Taylor.
Oh,
their
nice.
drummer. So
Gotta love that.
It's a good song. So,
Good deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely not on the guilty pleasure list.
No, I don't know about guilty pleasure. I really don't.
So what was the best concert you've been to, would you say, so far, since you haven't seen the Foo Fighters yet?
I'm a big Jake Owen fan, so I'll throw Jake Owen in there probably.
Oh yeah, Barefoot Blue Jean.
Mhm.
Yeah, Jake Owen's not bad.
Mm-hmm.
Good deal.
So
All right, so we have time to go Wednesday wildcard then. That was not your official question. We're going to shuffle the deck up a little bit and pull one of these, and then we're going to put Casper on the spot so he gets to answer this for us today. What was a best mistake that you've made recently that turned out well? So you thought it was a mistake, but it ended up turning out well.
Oh gosh, I can't think of that in the next 10 seconds.
What about cooking? Did you anything in the kitchen?
No.
Really?
Let's try another one.
Okay. Quick. Here we go, guys. If you had a quick $5,000 drop in your lap, what was the first thing you would spend it on?
Four-wheeler.
Oh yeah, that's
Yeah.
next on the list.
Yes.
Where are you going to take your four-wheeler? Just tool around?
We got some land for hunting.
Oh, that's right. You do have your sand and stuff. Siggy's lobbying for one now. We have some acreage of the house, and she thinks she needs it to go down and do chores for chickens. I'm like, no, walk your butt down there. That's what summer's
Put a
for.
plow on it, and you can shovel out your driveway.
There's an angle I hadn't thought of.
There you go.
Yeah,
So,
put a bigger plow on it, and we can shovel some of this out of here because
Exactly.
it's getting pretty thick.
286 CK Eau Claire. Sports Talk 105.1 and 790 AM. From the 715 newsroom, it's Morgan McCarthy with your news on Sports Talk 105.1.
Good morning. We'll start with investigators in Richland County with more questions than answers and not saying much about last week's death at a local campground there. They say it, though, was suspicious. The Richland County Sheriff's Office got a call last Thursday about a man at Bunker Hill Campground. He was later pronounced dead. Investigators saying the circumstances surrounding his death are suspicious. The ME not saying just how the man died. There's no talk of suspects yet or a possible motive in that case. In our area, looking closer leads to more question marks when it comes to money and where it went. And Eau Claire County's Department of Human Services spent quite a bit. With 715 newsroom coverage, John DeMaster looks closer about an investigation into that spending.
Eau Claire County Sheriff's Office released its investigation into DHS yesterday, and the report is full of unanswered questions. The report says DHS employees either lied to investigators or tried to obstruct their investigation. DHS told investigators it would not provide receipts because accounting for all the spending would be a HIPAA violation. The Sheriff's Office looked into DHS after years of overspending. The Eau Claire County DA's office said back in March that no one at DHS would be charged with any crimes. I'm John DeMaster.
Well, the runway is cleared for landing, but it doesn't have to do with air traffic control. Lawmakers in Madison holding a hearing on a plan today to make changes to the state's hunting laws that create exemptions for hunting nuisance animals. The changes include allowing shooters to use a light to find animals and shoot across the road. Now, the changes would only apply at airports and only for designated shooters. Well, if you swung into Quick Trip on Otter Road, you might want to check your numbers. There was a lotto ticket sold there, and that would have been on Otter Road in Eau Claire. Megabucks ticket, $1.3 million. Somebody has either sitting in their glove compartment, in their back pocket, or just keeps staring at it to make sure it's official. But the winner hasn't come forward, at least not yet. If it is you, congrats. And if you didn't get to see Manhattan Hedge, you'll get another chance to experience what that sunset spectacle is in the big city, right, Sarah?
Expect crowds and lots of folks wielding cameras and tripods to catch the setting sun, lining up perfectly with Manhattan's east-west cross streets. It happens 4 days a year, including 2 days in mid-July. But you've got to be alert to capture the rays. The whole thing lasts about a minute or so. Astrophysicist Neil deGrasse Tyson, who came up with the term Manhattan Henge, says to get the best photos, find a spot as far east as possible that still has views of New Jersey from across the Hudson River. I'm Sarah Lee Kessler.
You know, the Casper Classic is coming up. And aside from a good day on the golf course, we really this year expect
crowds and lots of folks wielding cameras and tripods.
For Sports Talk 105.1, I'm Morgan McCarthy.
Our midsummer like heat continues today as we have temperatures climbing to the mid to upper 80s under some intervals of clouds and sun. Much like yesterday, we'll have a chance at a pop-up shower or storm through the afternoon. Partly cloudy through tonight as those pop-up showers start to fizzle out with temperatures dipping to the 60s, and then a good chance at hitting 90 over the next couple of days, again with chances at pop-up showers through the afternoon. I'm Sky 113 meteorologist Mike D'Andrea.
Good planting weather across most of the country last week means most of the spring planted crops are now in the ground. Let's take a look at some of our food and farm news this morning on Sports Talk 105.1 and AM 790. Corn planting jumped another 11%. As 92% of the corn across the country has now been planted well ahead of last year and our 5-year average. Even North Dakota, which was way behind just a couple of weeks ago because of poor spring weather, has caught up to its normal planting pace and now has 72% of its corn planted. Corn crop is also in good shape, rated 69% good to excellent condition. Farmers made even better progress with their soybeans last week, increasing planting by 17%, as 83% of the beans are now in, like corn, well ahead of last year and the 5-year average. Every state except North Dakota is ahead of last year's planting pace for soybeans. Here in Wisconsin, our planting pace for both corn and soybeans continues to outpace normal, as state farmers now have 90% of their corn and 82% of their soybeans planted. This week's crop progress report also shows 93% of our oat crop has been seeded, 90% of the potatoes have been planted and 33% of first crop hay has been harvested. But we could use some rain. Topsoil moisture now rated just 55% adequate to surplus, 35% short, and 10% very short. Well, last year, the University of Wisconsin-Madison decided to end the farm industry short course after a 138-year run on the Madison campus. But supporters of short course jumped in to revive the program, which now will be housed at the UW River Falls. Classes will restart this fall. Registrations are now open for students who want to attend year one of that 2-year program. First year will be limited to 24 students. And that's a look at some of our food and farm news this morning on Sports Talk 105.1 and AM 790. I'm Bob Bosold.
Want to stop engine problems before they start? Pick up a can of Seafoam motor treatment. Seafoam helps engines start easier, run smoother, and last longer. Just pour it in your fuel tank. Seafoam is available where automotive products are sold.
Crank it up.
Hey, are you ready to take? Get up. He's on his way. He's our man. The man, the myth, the legend. That's Dan. And now, the Dan Kasper Show.
All right, second hour kicking off on this Making the Turn Wednesday, May 31st, final day of May coming at you. Coming up this hour at 7:30, we'll be catching up. We'll be chatting with, I should say, NBC Sports golf analyst Mark Rolfing. He's over at Century World, getting ready for the U.S. Senior Open in Stevens Point at the end of the month. So Mark, kind enough to join us here for a little bit. He'll be giving us a call around 7:30 this morning. We'll get to some Brewers chats as well. We'll hit up the Brewers loss from last night and kind of look ahead to game 2 of this series. We'll see what kind of look at some of the previews and the pitching matchups and the hitting lineups and that sort of thing. So, but let's kick off this hour with some sports nuggets of the day. Not a whole lot here. 1879, New York's Madison Square Garden opened. Have you been to Madison Square Garden, Luke?
I have. Let's see. Did I walk by it? I've never been in it.
Okay.
But I was in New York City. I trying to remember if the tour bus went by it, but not in.
Yeah. Is that on your bucket list to watch or be like? I don't feel like it's on mine, to be honest with you.
You know, I hadn't really thought of it in that regard, but I guess if you had to say choose an arena, I think that's the one, at least on the pro level.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because I mean, there's not too many others left that are classic. I mean, Staples. Oh my gosh, the name. Yeah, okay, cool.
Yeah, I don't know of any other arena. I mean, I know Madison's got its history and such, but I don't view it as a bucket list for me, to be honest with you.
Actually, if I were to go to Madison Square Garden for something, it'd be the Big East tournament.
That'd be a good one, yeah.
At Madison Square Garden. That's the real fun one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Or can we flash back and go to the 90s and see a little Patrick Ewing in next?
Well, and that was the other thing I was thinking of. I was remember I can still hear like the organ playing.
Yes. I think that's like one of the most iconic ones over there in the 90s.
I mean, it's standard, but it's what you heard at MSG.
Massive. Yep.
But they've sucked for so long, we haven't seen that in a long time.
Does Patrick Ewing even like identify with the Knicks at all? You know, like how former players kind of stick around or something like that. I haven't really seen Ewing in the Knicks.
I really haven't seen that, so I don't know, honestly.
Yeah.
He seems. I mean, it was definitely more Georgetown, but that made sense for obvious reasons, and that's different than pro. But he hasn't really done that much pro, so I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. So
weird.
Other stuff, 1880, the first U.S. National Bicycle Society was formed in Newport, Rhode Island. It was known as the League of American Wheelmen. All right. Let's go with not really a whole lot. 1937, the Brooklyn Dodgers ended Carl Hubbell's 24-game winning streak. And that's about it. That's about it for your sports nuggets of the day. Brought to you by our good friends from Yancey Associates. A couple of texts to catch up on. Surveyor, once again, Aaron Rodgers is putting all the blame on someone else other than himself in any of this whole debacle. Glad he's gone. What a drama queen. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, Surveyor. I just want to, and I'm not calling you out or anything like that, but correct me if I'm wrong. I believe, were you one of them that wanted Aaron back this year, but maybe kind of changing it up here a little bit? Not saying it's right or wrong. I just want to kind of give a whole picture. And I'd be curious to hear from others who maybe wanted Rodgers back, but now after a couple months, maybe you're kind of glad he's gone, just to kind of move on from that drama sort of thing. You know what I mean? So I'll be kind of, because I'll be honest with you, I'm kind of in that category.
You know what? I don't even know what the thing is, and I kind of don't want to know. Not that it's like bad. It's just like more Rodgers drama, really?
Yeah. What? So Matt Schneidman, who covers the Packers for The Athletic, wrote a piece. He said he heard some stories. He reached out to Aaron to see if Aaron wanted to comment, and boy, did Aaron say yes, and he commented. So, yeah.
Oh, great.
Yep, exactly.
Okay.
All that sort of stuff. So my biggest thing is the hypocriticalness coming from the whole thing. Don't want to rehash it right now at this point, but I'll just say one of these things. According to a source associated with the team who is granted, to be anonymous due to the candidly discuss the sensitive dynamics between the front office and the star quarterback early in that famous 2021 offseason, Don Rodgers' agent called Packers president Mark Murphy with a request: fire Goody or trade Rodgers. Murphy did neither. When Rodgers was asked about it, Rodgers deferred to his agent. So that tells me, yes, the request was made. Because for a guy who is not shy from calling BS on stuff that affects him on his good buddy's program, Pat McAfee, to defer the question to his agent, to me tells me, yes, the request was made.
Okay.
That's my opinion.
Good luck, New York folks.
And the best part here too is that according to, I'm going to paraphrase here. According to Rodgers, the communication between him and Goody improved somewhat, but quote, it still wasn't anywhere near what I've already enjoyed here with the Jets in just a few short weeks. Oh, that's so cute. Good for Aaron. He's still in the honeymoon phase right now.
Oh,
good Lord. And then, he goes on the whole thing about the OTAs thing, not showing up for OTAs and being criticized and that. Dude, you're doing it in New York what Green Bay wanted you to do, right?
Yep.
Don't be hypocritical in this thing.
Yep.
Don't be hypocritical. Don't sit there and criticize and call being a part of voluntary OTAs, the benefits are very minimal. Don't sit there on that hill and criticize it, yet you're doing exactly what Green Bay wanted you to do right now. Right now. Don't. That's the stuff that just gets me, is the hypocriticalness of that. And then he brought up the whole FaceTime thing again. To where he admitted, okay, here's the best. Remember how, okay, I'm going to bring it up again just to kind of give you a little bit more here. So you remember one of his things that he preaches is communication, right? He wants communication. He wants people talking to him, right? Yeah. He's talked about that all the time. You ready for this quote? Quote? Let me, here we go. I'm just, okay. Did Brian text me more than I texted him? Yes. But did I ghost him? No. I texted him back. There was back and forth that we had. And so this story that you want to go with, you're going to stand on this hill and say that arguably in the conversation, the best player in your franchise history, you're going to say, I couldn't get a hold of him, and that's why we had to move on. Like, come on, man. Just tell the truth. You wanted to move on. You didn't like the fact that we didn't communicate all the time. Like, listen, I talk to the people that I like. That's from Aaron. So he goes on one hill, demands communication, and then sits there and admits that Brian reached out to him more than he did, and then says, I only talk to the people that I like.
Yeah. Okay.
Makes complete sense, man.
What is it? What?
Makes complete sense.
Oh, gosh. Is he going to get like tepid applause when he comes back to Green Bay for his retirement jersey or his number retirement ceremony?
You know,
at the rate this is, look, there's a lot of years. I think it'll all eventually, but
Mm-hmm.
the more this goes on, okay, if this keeps up, I'll put it that way, which there's a very decent chance it will keep up. But if this does keep up,
Mm-hmm.
it's not like he's going to get booed. It's not like he went to the Vikings, but is it going to be like oh yeah, I remember you. Oh, okay, cool. Well, you did win the Super Bowl. Okay.
Yeah. I'm done with it now. Like, maybe if we didn't go through it 15 years ago, be like, okay, whatever. I'm just done with it. I just want to talk about football.
Yeah.
I can't wait for the day when this is just all done and we just talk about football again. I miss those days. I really do.
Yeah. As much as I hope that's the case, just wait till like week 2, and now comes the next bomb drop. Insider from like Bob McGinn has his TikTok.
gracious.
Then
You know-
Mina Kimes is her TikTok.
The irony in this whole thing, you remember right before Goody was hired, the report, because we knew the finalists, right? It was Goody, it was Russ Ball, maybe Elliot Wolf was in there too. But remember the report that Aaron didn't want Russ Ball because he wasn't like a scout, didn't have that scouting background.
Mm-hmm.
In this thing, the only person that Aaron praises from the front office is Russ Ball. He goes on to say Russ was the only one that took everything that I said to heart and really tried to improve and was, involved with talking with more players. I'm paraphrasing all that, but he's going on and it's like showering Russ Ball with these roses and love and all that. And this was the guy that reportedly a few years ago, Aaron did not want as general manager. The irony,
I don't even
the
know.
irony in it all. It's wow. What at this point, what can you do but chuckle and
Yeah,
laugh? You know,
essentially.
I mean, that's what it's at this point. So, I was reading it this morning because it dropped at like 5 this morning, so I had a chance to read it before.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to have a subscription to read it. It's The Athletic. So I'm just sitting there and like chuckling in my office reading it and shaking my head because I'm like, this is so ridiculous. This really is ridiculous. Like, so FaceTime works, which if I'm not a tech person, but I believe you can do through Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
Calling, okay, he's only got one bar and it drops or anything. But obviously texts work. He admitted that. So texts work, FaceTime works, phone calls don't work. But don't phones now have Wi-Fi calling on them? Turn the Wi-Fi calling on,
I think
bro.
so. Well, they only work if you like or if he likes you.
That's true.
Otherwise, it doesn't. He's got a block on his.
That's
his
true.
iPhone.
Yep.
Or whatever he's got.
That circle is small.
Knowing him, he probably doesn't even have either an iPhone or an Android device. He has like some super obscure level. Like, remember back when Windows and Mac were kind of going back and forth, like which is going to be the big back when Windows 95 was a thing. And then there was like the hardcore computer types like Linux, which is really like way better than the two, but it was not even remotely like casual user friendly. He's probably one of those types where he can probably put a thing in where he doesn't. I'm being kind of facetious here, but he could probably put a thing in where he only can hear from people that he likes. He would be the type to do that.
Yeah. I find it funny that, he's this whole technology thing, and I'm not going to get into the difference between Wi-Fi calling and data with texting because that is just utterly ridiculous. The point that I am making is obviously texts were going through, and obviously he admitted Goody was reaching out to him more, so something was coming through, right?
Mm-hmm.
I am not getting down this stupid trail of like what works better. That's just ridiculous, and it's immature. For, FaceTime, texting. He flat out admitted, yes, he was getting stuff. There's ways. He flat out ghosted him. is what it is.
Yeah.
He flat out ghosted them.
He didn't like him. He wanted things his way. He didn't get him his way. And so he got moved out.
Mm-hmm.
That's as simple as that. And now he's trying to rationalize and justify all of it.
Well said, Lucas.
That's what's going on.
Perfectly said. I think we cap it on there, right? Let's move on.
Are we officially banishing Aaron Rodgers talk for the next 5 years?
Until the Athletic gets a one-on-one with Goody, and Goody throws out his phone and displays what the many times that he tried reaching out and all that garbage.
There's part of me that wants to see him do that, and there's part of me that's like, if you do that, this thing is going to blow up even bigger. Don't. Just don't. And actually, no, he won't do that. I think he wants to move on too, actually.
I feel like Goody's just like, dude, I'm glad. Do you think Goody's like actually happy that he's no longer there? Like he'll take the lumps of this season.
Yes.
I don't,
I'm quite sure of that.
They might win 6 games, 5 games. I don't know. Nobody knows at this point. But I think he'll be happier this year.
He's got 2 years of Jordan Love to work with.
Mm-hmm. He's got the young receivers to grow with. Right.
He'll be fine with this. If people are criticizing, whatever. For now, it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
He'll be okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
By the way, it's what, Joe Namath's birthday today. I'd rather.
Oh, is that why? Is that why Schefter tweeted something about Joe Namath?
I saw a whole bunch of Joe Namath things. So rather focus on that Jet quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
Granted, he's one who also courted a lot of media attention, and in one case it was really bad, but in most cases it was actually pretty good, and not about FaceTiming.
Do you think he got reception at the Taylor Swift concert? I mean, that's a lot of cell phones at MetLife. Was the data network down?
I would love to see if someone had a picture of him on the phone at that game.
or the concert.
At that concert, sorry. At that concert.
Dude needs to work on his dance moves, though, too. That was a little awkward. Did you see some of that
I
stuff?
did not.
Okay. You're good for you, then. You don't need to.
I just saved myself like 10 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Yeah.
I will.
Yeah. I don't watch, I don't listen, but I kind of made a joke of it yesterday. But Aaron spending his time at a Taylor Swift concert, Jordan Love hanging out with teammates in Door County to develop a connection. Where's that headline?
Yeah.
I'm being
I know.
smart, you know what.
I
but
know.
I'm surprised some haven't ran with that.
Hmm.
You know what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
I'm not. I'm just saying I'm surprised some haven't. But
right.
Christian Watson's racing Simone Biles on the shores of Lake Michigan, and Jordan Love's taking selfies with the sleeping Christian Watson and AJ Dillon, and they're having fun with that. And Aaron's hanging out at a Taylor Swift concert. Why is he hanging out with his new guys, developing a connection?
He's already in with them. He's already talked to them.
It's already a dream, like he said.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Plus, it's Taylor Swift, and so you get automatic.
Are you a Swiftie?
No, I'm not.
I'll say, okay, I'm not.
No, I like her music. She's incredibly. Gosh, she's one of the best.
If you had an opportunity to go to a concert, would you go?
Yeah.
Okay.
The funny thing is, I was actually thinking about that. I think it was like yesterday, or I can't remember exactly what, but I was listening to something like on the radio or whatever, and the topic of Taylor Swift. Going to Taylor Swift concerts came up. And I thought, this Eras Tour has become such a thing right now. Like, I'm actually at the point where if someone gave me tickets, like, yeah, you can go. Like, I wouldn't buy them. It's pretty pricey. It's tough to get in. Obviously, there was that whole thing. But if someone said, yeah, go ahead. If I didn't have anything else going on, absolutely, I would go. I want to see what the whole thing is about. And like I said, she's like, we might be at peak Taylor Swift right now. You could have said that at many moments over the last decade, but it's worth seeing. It's worth catching kind of the pop culture moment that's happening, because this is a moment.
Mm-hmm.
And I take it from someone that tries to keep up with what's relevant right now. As big as Taylor Swift has been since 2008, when I think she really burst from being a country star to crossing over, there is a thing happening right now. I would absolutely go. Now, I did see her at Country Jam back in 2008, and I do remember have her leaving an impression on me that hardly anyone has left at Country Jam. I was like, Well, this is a totally different type of country. Well, and that was just the beginnings.
It ain't country anymore.
Not really, not at all. But yeah, she's really good. Apparently not that great of a dancer either. But
oh, that's another thing. Her and Aaron, I think they're both single if they want to,
Swifties don't come for me, okay? That's the thing. Like you rip on Taylor Swift, you are dead.
All right.
Yeah.
Like the mob or something? I mean,
oh yeah, totally. Like be
okay.
careful what you post on Twitter. Your mentions will they will get loaded.
Okay.
Depending on how you comment on Taylor Swift.
Right before we got to take a break, because Mark's going to be calling us here in a little bit. But the biggest contract in the NFL is from Brad. Says to me that the Packers wanted him, yet if the Packers intentionally put themselves in cap space, HE double hockey sticks, and intentionally did it to make Aaron look worse, I can't see it. Well, I don't think anybody's saying that they signed him to a huge contract to make him look worse, one. Two, I think it's pretty evident the reason they gave him that big contract was, one, he's coming off an MVP, right?
Mm-hmm.
Jordan Love did not look ready yet. So they made that deal. They're probably regretting it now at this point, I would imagine. I think that's fair to say.
Yeah.
They're probably. But I think that goes to, and even Aaron alluded to it in that column, Jordan made huge strides from his fundamental standpoint, and it kind of goes back to the hiring of Tom Clements, probably.
Yeah.
I think it's as simple as they gave him a new contract. They were disappointed. Maybe he didn't buy in as much in the offseason, like the OTA thing or whatever. They maybe view that his play went down a little bit. That's debatable. But they've seen an improvement from Jordan Love where they feel comfortable now to move on to him. I think it's as simple as that at this point.
Which you could have telegraphed 3 years ago.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's what was going to happen. By the way, very quickly before we go to break, speaking of contracts, just saw this. There's the Daily Norseman, the Bleacher Report site, but they just mentioned that on SportsCenter just now, Jeremy Fowler had said that Dalvin Cook's still more likely to be traded than cut. And as they note today, I'm saying this more for NFC North stuff, that this is the last day the Vikings can trade or cut Cook without having a significant cap hit. So there could be Dalvin Cook news today. Could be.
It's interesting to say because you can do the post-June 1st cut and split that cap hit if you release him.
Maybe there's something more to, and again, it was just posted, so maybe they got a little, it's always a little.
I'll have to look into that one. Yeah.
Yeah. But at least keep that on your radar. If there's a Dalvin Cook story today, a transaction, well, you know the reason why.
To the Jets.
Is he one of Aaron's buddies?
Aaron's probably very familiar with him, so
Does he like him? Has he managed to get through on FaceTime?
That's
the real question.
Yeah,
I don't know.
That's the question. I'm surprised nobody has tried to look up, by the way, the coverage map of where Aaron lives, and trying to figure out what his coverage looks like. How does FaceTime not have an endorsement with Aaron Rodgers right now? I'm waiting for that commercial to come out. For as much as he has mentioned them right now.
No, what needs to happen is State Farm needs to do something where he's talking into his phone on a phone call, but holding it at a distance so he's looking at it.
Yes,
that actually would be pretty clever.
Yes,
even with all this drama, I would have to give be a well played on that one.
I would too. I think I would too. So, all right, let's take a quick break here. All right, we'll do that. So we got a busy final hour and a half. We're going to talk a little golf. The U.S. Senior Open is coming to Century World. We'll talk to one of those individuals who'll be covering it, Mark Rolfing from NBC Sports, in just a couple minutes.
You're listening to the Dan Kasper Show.
Keep your spring showers hot with a new water heater from Hurlburt Heating and Plumbing. Extended through May, when you purchase a new furnace and air conditioner from Hurlburt, you'll get a free water heater. Consultations are always free, and interest-free financing is available too. Give us a call or visit us online at hurlburthp.com for more information. That's hurlburthp.com.
If Culligan isn't treating your home's water, you likely have water problems all around you, like hard-to-clean chalky residue on your shower, faucets, and bath, stains around your sink drains, spots on your dishes and glassware, plus dull, dried-out hair and skin, and problems you don't see, like scaly buildup in the water heater and pipes. But have no fear, you're in the clear with Culligan Products and Service for all your residential and commercial water filtration needs.
Visit CulliganH2O.com for your local Culligan water dealer.
Who doesn't love Hy-Vee? Once you walk in the store, you're in for quite the shopping experience. So grab yourself a coffee and check out everything Hy-Vee has to offer. From their top-of-the-line produce section, A-plus bakery, a deli department that includes so many different cheeses you didn't even know existed, a superb meat department, and even shoes. Plus the best wine and spirits department in the area. And once you're done shopping or need to grab a bite to eat, they have many different options in their food court, including the popular Wahlburgers. Experience the Hy-Vee experience yourself today.
Keep your spring showers hot with a new water heater from Hurlburt Heating and Plumbing. Extended through May, when you purchase a new furnace and air conditioner from Hurlburt, you'll get a free water heater. Consultations are always free, and interest-free financing is available too. Give us a call or visit us online at hurlburthp.com for more information. That's hurlburthp.com.
This is Scott Pisak, owner of Koufax Chevrolet. We have a fantastic selection of vehicles in stock, and if you don't see what you're looking for, we will find it for you. We strive to provide an excellent customer experience, so stop in and see what makes Koufax Chevrolet different. Visit both of our lots in downtown Koufax, and for a buying experience completely online, visit KoufaxChev.com. It's always a fantastic day at Koufax Chevrolet.
This is one of my favorite times of the year. Nice weather, golf, vacation time, little league games, enjoying the warm weather before it's gone because it's Wisconsin and you never know. But it seems like this time of year also goes by quicker than any other time of the year. And we know time doesn't speed up. It's just because we're so busy doing so many different things that it just seems like we never have enough time. Before you know it, we're already into fall and hunting season. So this is my quick reminder to you hunters that even though we're heading into spring and summer, time is going to be flying on by and we are going to be preoccupied by so many things. So don't forget to get that new deer rifle or new shotgun before the fall hunting season from Tilden Gun. Whether you're looking for new or used, Tilden Gun has the best selection of firearms to choose from, all at the best prices in the Chippewa Valley. Now is the time to start getting ready for fall hunting season. So don't let it sit on the back burner during your busy time. Visit the locally owned and family operated Tilden Gun today at 12427 98th Avenue in Chippewa Falls.
Do you remember all those times playing in the backyard and daydreaming of either playing on your favorite sports team or dreaming about all the goals you wanted to accomplish in life? We still do that today, and that's why we created Backyard Dreams. We want to help people accomplish their goals, chase their passions, and achieve their dreams. Whether someone's dream is to attend a ball game, someone needs a new pair of basketball shoes, or a Little League team needs help going to a tournament, we want to help, and we need your help as well to help our community. To learn more about Backyard Dreams, just visit sportstalk1051.com.
The third annual Kasper Classic coming up on August 4th at the gorgeous Princeton Valley Golf Course here in Eau Claire. A lot of signups so far. We got a few early bird registrations still available. Just head to sportstalk1051.com to secure your team in there. The morning session is, well, we're getting pretty full up on there, but we still got a few spots open for that 1 p.m. tee time shotgun start over there. So more details at sportstalk1051.com. Again, all proceeds going to help Backyard Dreams, our organization to help young ones and kids achieve their goals and chase their dreams over there. So again, more information at our website, sportstalk1051.com. Speaking of golf, the U.S. Senior Open is coming to the great state of Wisconsin over in Stevens Point at Century World in just a few weeks. And to kind of help us break it down and get an early look at it, NBC Sports golf analyst Mark Rolfing joining us this morning. Mark, appreciate you taking some time and talking with us here in the Chippewa Valley.
Great. Thanks for having me, Dan. I'm wondering if you can send me an entry blank for the Casper Classic there. I'd like to get in that.
Hey, if you're in, man, I'll take you on my team too, because we're giving away title belts for the winners. So I need some help with my golf game. So if you're up for it, we can hook that up, man.
Did you see the story about J.B. Holmes, who played in a club event last weekend? It was a scramble format, and he's won 5 PGA Tour events. He entered under another name, a $30,000 Calcutta. His team was set to win, and they busted him.
Really?
On on the 15th hole, took him off the course.
I did not see that. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's a great story. Yeah.
Well, hey, I know you're over at Century World. I know you're spending some time with our good friend Lance Allen yesterday. How does the course look, and how is it shaping up for the Open coming up in a few weeks?
You know, Dan, every time I see Century World, I like it more. People have an impression of Century World from seeing pictures of it or photos or listening to you on the radio or me, on social media or something. But the more I look at Century World, the more I like it from the first tee to the 18th green. There's a few holes that get most of the attention, the flower hole, obviously, but it is a really well-balanced golf hole. For the folks that were watching the senior PGA last week, where Stricker and Harrington came down to the end, Century World is the exact opposite of that golf course. That one is very long, wide open. This is a precision-style golf course. It's going to play like a U.S. Open of old. I think it's going to be tough. I think the scores will be much higher here than they were in Dallas last week or Frisco last week. But having said that, I think you'll see Stricker and Harrington right at the end here also.
You mentioned Steve Stricker, and I was going to ask you about that. Harrington, defending champ, I believe, from last year. Steve Stricker just won last week. He's Wisconsin's ambassador for golf, right now, and I think he's going to be one of the fan favorites over there. How do you like his game setting up for Century World in a couple weeks?
I'll tell you what I like most about his game, Dan, is he's the most disciplined player I think I've ever seen in my career. It was amazing to me last week. There was a short par 5 of the back 9, the 14th hole, and he had great drives every day, laid it up every day, even though he was in the 200-yard range to get it on the green in 2. He didn't, he resisted the temptation. He laid it up every day, and from 90 yards, 4 days in a row, he made 3 birdies and an eagle. He holed it one of those days. So he played the whole 5 under par. Harrington, who was ripping it at the green in 2, I think played it 2 or 3 under par. And that's basically where Stricker won the tournament, with his discipline. And it's going to take a lot of that out here at Century World. There are some difficult angles out here, and the rough is high. You should see it this morning because there's a little dew on the grass. It's almost like they put some balsamic vinaigrette down on this 5-inch rough right now. I don't think it's going to be quite that long and thick for the U.S. Senior Open, but it is definitely a huge factor.
With Stricker, for us who aren't in between the ropes with him, I think we just might have lost. All right, we'll see if he gives us a call back. Luke will be manning maybe the phone lines there a little bit, but I had a good Steve Stricker question coming up there, Luke.
Hopefully you'll get to ask the Steve Stricker question. I'm just thinking of balsamic vinaigrette right now.
Right? I figured when it comes to a food thing for you, that's probably the first thing that comes to your mind.
Tasty golfing, yes.
A little bit right there, too.
I will say this also reminds me of my lawn right now, because
Did you do the no mow?
I did no mow. So then the thing you got to do is you got to set your mower like at the highest level, and I think I have it up at like 5 inches, and it's a pretty thick lawn. So when he said 5, I think that's exactly what that was.
Right.
So I think he's back now, so we can get beyond balsamic vinaigrette and get back to Steve Stricker.
Mark?
Yeah, I'm back. Sorry.
No, you're good, Mark. You're good. I was going to ask, for Steve Stricker, for some of us who may not have spent some time with him in between the ropes or gotten to know him, I don't think I've ever seen anybody, from the PGA say anything negative about Steve Stricker. I know Tiger Woods has even talked about him, Ryder Cup captain. Can you just kind of give us a little bit of a maybe insight on the type of person Steve Stricker is, and just kind of maybe his personality or his style of game too?
Steve Stricker is one of the wonderful human beings that I've known ever. I really like the guy. he is a down-home Wisconsin guy, Dan. I'll tell you, he, of course, grew up down in Everton, and I think, or maybe it's Edgerton, just outside Madison, but he tried moving to Florida, I think maybe when he was in his 30s or early 40s, because, all the good players like to get out of the cold weather places, get down, and they think they're going to get better in Florida by playing golf over the winter. And he went down there for a year, and it didn't work. He didn't enjoy it. It didn't make him any better. And he moved back to Wisconsin, and here he is still. He is a down-home guy. He still works on his game using mirrors and old-style training devices. He does some video, but not at all like kind of the guys that you see in the real modern era. He's a family man through and through. He had his daughter, Izzy, on the bag last week at the senior PGA. But, of course, Nikki, his wife, has caddied for him. Bobby, his other daughter, has caddied for him. Family is absolutely number one. And, no, I have never heard anybody say a bad word about Steve Stricker either.
With Wisconsin in the golfing world, we've seen the U.S. Open at Erin Hills. Obviously, we've seen Whistling Straits quite a bit now, Century World with the U.S. Senior Open. Where would you think? Do you think Wisconsin, and maybe it's more so for us who live in this state, we feel like we're a little underrated in terms of the quality of golf courses in this state? What is it from from your perspective or from the national perspective? How do others in the golfing community, golfing world, view Wisconsin and the golf courses that we have in this state?
Oh, I can tell you right now, Dan, Wisconsin has made it into the top 5 of golf destinations in America, period. As far as I'm concerned, you look at the iconic places like, Bandon Dunes and Pebble Beach out on the West Coast and Pinehurst and Long Island. Wisconsin is getting into that category. I grew up in Northern Illinois. And that was a mighty long time ago, but I played almost all of my sort of destination golf in Michigan. That's where we went. There wasn't a Kohler, there wasn't an Erin Hills, there wasn't a Century World. There was a Lawsonia Links, and we used to come up there every once in a while. But now, Wisconsin is just unbelievable. I don't think I would drive around the lake and go to Michigan anymore if I were still in DeKalb, Illinois. I'd be coming to Wisconsin all the time. It's a phenomenal golf destination. And the thing that's so great about it that I like is that you have this different variety of courses. What you find at Sand Valley is totally different than Century World, which is totally different than Erin. There's a lot of diversity.
Yeah, you mentioned Sand Valley. That's one course have you been to Sand Valley yet?
I have been to Sand Valley. It's spectacular.
It looks spectacular. They've done just a fantastic job over there. Mark Rolfing, a U.S. or NBC Sports golf analyst, joining us here this morning, getting ready for the U.S. Senior Open, coming to Century World in just a few weeks over there in Stevens Point. How is, you've talked about Century World, you've been there a few times, but what are some of the unique aspects with Century World and hosting this major championship right now? What are some of the main, some of the challenges that Century World might present some of these golfers?
Well, I would say the biggest challenge is the infrastructure of hotel rooms in the area. It's, right in central Wisconsin. This is going to be the biggest sporting event I think that central Wisconsin has ever seen. So accommodations are a little bit of a challenge. There's going to be a lot of drive-in for this event, but I can tell you this: I don't know if I have seen a major championship, Dan, that is going to have easier access for the spectators than this one. If you don't have tickets, you ought to go to USSeniorOpen.com and get some right now, because first of all, the parking is the closest on parking that I have seen for a major in forever. You can get off I-39, go into a public parking lot, and be inside the gates in Century World in less than 10 minutes, which is going to be really, really easy. The other thing is Century World is a pretty compact golf course. It's in I would say an envelope of maybe 200 acres at the max, but you're not wandering around all day long all over the Wisconsin countryside trying to watch golf. Erin Hills is pretty spread out. It's spectacular, but pretty spread out. Century World is not like that at all. So it is going to be great viewing. And now that we've got Stricker having won the first 2 senior majors, I mean, think about it. This guy's coming in here with a chance to get the third leg of the senior slam would be remarkable, and he gets a chance to do it in front of his hometown fans. There's going to be a huge rooting interest here. It's going to feel a little bit more like a home college football game down at Camp Randall, I think, than a golf tournament.
That's he's done such great, and the funny part too is I think a lot of people kind of forget he played at the University of Illinois, with his golfing career. He went a little down south to Illinois there, but yet he's Wisconsin through and through, and what he's doing, down in Madison with what's upcoming TPC Wisconsin for the AmFam Championship in 2025 too. It's been remarkable what he's done for this game in the state of Wisconsin.
Yeah, he's Wisconsin through and through. They didn't have a full scholarship for him. And I think it was his father-in-law, Dennis Tiziani, who was the golf coach at Wisconsin back then, I think offered him maybe like a half a scholarship. And he said, forget it. I'm going down to Champaign. And he went down there. It probably was a good thing in some ways, got him out into the world a little bit. And he wasn't as good back then. He has made himself a better player. If you're a recreational golfer, you should just really look at Steve Stricker and see how his career has just steadily gotten better and better and better and better. He wasn't a huge Jordan Spieth kind of come out after junior golf and be a superstar right away. He worked on his game, and where did he work on it? Around the greens. His chipping and putting is spectacular.
Mark, has Century World changed up anything to gear up for the Senior Open? Now, the last time I've been there, it's been a few years since I was able to golf Century World. But have they adjusted any of the holes or anything over there for the Senior Open, or is it pretty much kind of what it's been like for the last couple of years over there? Do you know?
It's pretty much like it's been. There's been a few adjustments. The biggest thing is the rough right now. Now, when I was here, I came up here, Dan, right after the Masters, and there was still snow on the ground. So I didn't get a real good look at it like I did yesterday out there. But what they've had to do is just let the rough grow and grow and grow. And as you know, the golf course is not open to the public right now until this championship's over. So I really don't know what it would be like for the average guy to go out there and play right now. But I would lose 2 or 3 balls turned around out there if I was playing, because the rough is that thick. I think they'll cut it down a little. It's going to be very much a driving golf course in today's modern game, and particularly last week down in Frisco, Texas. You could drive it all over Texas and still shoot good scores. You cannot do that here. It's a very, very much a precision golf course.
Mark, just to kind of wrap it up, I know you mentioned Harrington. I know we've talked about Stricker. Is there any other golfers that you could see where their games fit this type of course that they could be contenders in a few weeks here for the Senior Open?
Yeah, there's a number of guys. Look, this is not a 2-horse race at all. Walking around yesterday, it was screaming the name Stephen Alker at me. I just kept thinking Stephen Alker. He's the guy from New Zealand that has really come on the last couple of years, won the Charles Schwab Cup. He's a very consistent player, a very disciplined kind of player, not a long hitter. I don't think length is going to be a big factor here at all. But I kind of like Stephen Alker. I like a player sort of like Miguel Angel Jimenez. Not flashy, not a big bomber of the ball, but great with his distance control. And discipline is going to be the biggest thing. If you drive the ball in the rough here and you go in there and start trying to hit hero shots onto some of these greens, particularly the ones that got water around them, you're going to be making some big scores. There's a double bogey line ahead on almost every hole out here at Century World for this championship.
Hey, Mark, before I let you go, I got to ask, what drew you to the game of golf? What was your inspiration? How did you get involved with the game of golf?
I wanted to play all the other sports just like everybody else. And in high school, I was a football guy and a basketball guy. And I was so embarrassed at being good at golf that I actually sewed my letter on my letter jacket for golf on the inside of my jacket so nobody could see it. I don't know. I kind of loved the people early on. There were some guys at the club in DeKalb where I grew up, Illinois, and kind of took me under their wing and taught me how to play. And then I met Arnold Palmer one day and met Jack Nicklaus, and I don't know. I fell in love with the game at an early age.
I guess my last question for you: when you've covered more than 35 years experience reporting on the course and from the tower, I mean, to see the game grow as much as it did, I came up, I always say Tiger Woods made it cool for me to go golf as a kid. I was kind of in that age range when I was in high school. It's like, okay, I can go golf. Tiger's making it cool, but the exposure of this sport and the growth of this sport. Can you just kind of reflect on how big it's gotten from your years of covering it and from your years of playing this game of golf?
Yeah, there are two guys really, Dan. The first one was Arnold Palmer, who made golf on television real and made it fun. So he gave me kind of the start in my career. But it was really Tiger. If I look back at why I'm sitting here talking to you today and why I'm going to be up in the tower here at Century World in a month calling this, it's because of Tiger Woods. I've kind of filled into this role of being the common man's analyst. I wasn't a great player, didn't have a great record like almost every other analyst in the game. So, but the reason it has worked for me is because Tiger Woods literally started attracting more and more people that wouldn't otherwise be involved in golf to the game. And it's become kind of in every person's game now. It doesn't matter whether young, old, male, female. It doesn't matter any of that. Golf is becoming much more of an inclusive game. It was an exclusive game when I started. You had to have money and you had to have access to courses. And nowadays it's becoming much more affordable and much more accessible, and I think that's why it's growing so much.
Last question for you, Mark. If you had to give any bit of advice to any of these golfers coming to Stevens Point, coming to Century World for the Senior Open, what would be the one piece of advice you would give every golfer participating in this Open?
Watch the way they play the game and think about how it can help you improve your game. And you're going to see from them, go to the practice area and you will see guys spending 75% of their time chipping and putting. Yes, it's fun going out and hitting balls and banging drivers on the range and everything else, but you want to make your game better, work on your short game. You're going to see that all day long out here.
That's probably good advice for me. My soon-to-be 6-year-old wants to start golfing, and I'm like, we're working on putting first. I got him a putter, and that's...
Yeah, do that.
Oh, go ahead.
But tell him to hit it hard.
Hit him hard?
Yeah, tell him to hit it hard. Hit it hard. I think, having fun at that age is the most important thing. That's what's going to keep them going in the game if they enjoy it. So let them hit it hard.
I like that. He's going to like hearing that too. So, Mark, hey, I appreciate you so much for stopping by and visiting with us here in western Wisconsin, the western part of the state. Looking forward to your coverage. And, I'll be over there at Century World. So if I see you there, I'd love to meet you. And again, thank you so much for stopping by here for a few minutes and chatting a little golf with us here.
You got it. Thanks, Dan.
You got it. There you go. Mark Rolfing joining us here this morning for little U.S. Senior Open.
It's really good. And what he said about the tradition of the game breaking down dovetails actually with something I just wrote about actually in volume 1. I did a story because they had a golf section in the stories. It didn't make the print edition just yet, but it's online so you can look for it. It's on the Stout. Was it the Golf Enterprise Management program?
Oh, yeah. I actually looked at that when I was coming out of high school.
It's a really good program as I learned it. I didn't know anything about it until I got the story tip. Christine Schoonover, Dr. Schoonover over at Stout. And she said the same thing when I did the interview with her. She said, the traditions of the game are melting away in a good way, where you don't have to wear a certain type of clothing to play the game. There aren't all of these, I guess, unwritten rules. He didn't put it that way, but that was the gist of it, that you're seeing so much more diversity coming to golf. And so many more different types of people are taking it up at a younger age. And the golf numbers are starting to come back up, too. They were declining for a while, and this has now changed in the last 2-3 years, and that might be part of it. And one probably leads into the other. So what Mark was talking about is exactly right. This game is opening up a lot very recently, and that's good for that sport.
I mean, look at just some of our prep ones in the area. How many local teams are, just yesterday advancing to state, Memorial remaining undefeated. They're just a powerhouse right now. I mean, those kids shooting under par. I can't even imagine doing that at this point. Neelsville's going to state for golf. Regis McDonald's going to state, for golf, and that's not counting some of the individuals that are going down there. So,
and also what you said about Wisconsin's quality and what he was saying, the same thing Dr. Schoonover said as well. Like, this state has got a lot going for it in terms of quality courses, opportunities to, well, like the GEM program at Stout. That's not playing the sport. You can, but that's doing the business end. But there's so many opportunities in the state. The one thing I would say, and this has nothing to do with any of the people we're talking to here, I'm looking at the 4 majors. And I've obviously Masters are in Georgia and the Opens in the UK, the British Isles.
When's the next one coming to Wisconsin?
That's the problem. And I don't know when that's going to be because of the PGA moving. And the US Open traditionally they try to keep it coastal.
Well, and they're locking up like courses for every few years to coming back, because we were looking at that. It's like, when will it be?
Not to at least the 30s,
right?
I think. And I mean, far be it from me to be like, yay, climate change. I pretty much hate it. I guess the one maybe good thing is we start getting warmer weather in May, so the courses are okay for a PGA championship. Like, that's the stretch. Of course, you know it's going to be in Wisconsin. Still, we'll still have cold springs until like May 15th.
Yeah.
Still won't be able to get a PGA championship. But that's an issue. For as good as our courses are, well, how do we get anything beyond? I mean, U.S. Senior Open, that's a good get. So I'm
had the
glad
Ryder Cup, a couple years ago, a few years ago at Whistling Straits. And
thankfully, the Ryder Cup is still going to be a possibility. But
I don't think it'll be going back to Erin Hills for the U.S. Open.
Something's got to change. Well, and hopefully the rep of Wisconsin gets so large. And other places are, I mean, Wisconsin especially, but there are other ones, obviously, you know, there are a few in the Twin Cities area. You mentioned Michigan. Those places, hopefully the rep gets big enough that some of the powers that be maybe make a change, but it might be a decade before we get.
And maybe that's where a guy like Steve Stricker can continue to make a difference like that too.
Make that case. Say we can golf here in Wisconsin, and it's nice to do that.
I didn't mention it, but Steve Stricker, because I'm glad Mark mentioned it, he could get the 3rd major already this year in his home state. The guy already has 6 senior major championships and 14 PGA Champions Tour wins.
Wow.
It's almost like, is it fair to say, and I know we got to take a really quick break here, but is it fair to say his career will be defined by the Champions Tour success rather than his PGA Tour success right now? He's already got more Champions Tour wins compared to PGA Tour wins.
Yeah, because I can't really think of much accomplishment in that, like, high-profile accomplishment, but I knew the name, obviously, and I'd always hear about the name.
So he's always been known for his putting. You know, back, and I'm sure it's still the same right now. But like when he was on the PGA, it was a short game, and it was this putting out there too. So
I think so, and that's a fair assessment. I mean, you can dominate, and they're. I think also as we have this next generation of more, not that Stricker is one of them, but more athletic golfers aging into the day. You start hearing some of the names on the senior tour, and you're like, whoa.
Yeah, I was looking at the list the other. I'm like, oh, I remember watching it when I was in high school in the PGA.
Patrick Harrington is the one I keep hearing. I'm like, oh, dang. Well, I guess, it's inevitable. I wonder if you start to have some that weren't, for whatever reason, able to win. I know we're in the era of anyone can win in one of the majors. But if that starts to happen a little bit more on the senior level, and a guy like Steve Stricker has that success.
Right.
And that rep.
We won't take a break. We'll just finish it up to the end of the hour. We only got about a minute here.
Okay.
So, but I'm excited to see it kind of shake out. By the way, Stricker's younger than what I thought he was.
I didn't know what his age was. He's 56.
Yeah. For some reason, I was thinking he was in his 60s. I don't know why, and that's not a knock, but he's fairly young yet.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I
Right.
mean, for the Champions Tour over there. So
okay, yeah. So here are some of the folks, at least the names that are going to jump out. Colin Montgomery.
Oh gosh, that guy's been around forever.
Does anybody cheer for him? At least over here. Stuart Sink.
Oh my goodness. I saw David Toms on that list, and I'm like, I remember him. You know, when I was in high school watching him wearing the visor and all that.
Darren Clark.
Oh gosh, yeah.
He's on the senior tour now. Oh gosh. Of course, we watched these as kids, so it's not really a shock. Yeah, I'm trying to see. There's probably a few because again, I'm just seeing the Chris DeMarco, I think it was.
Yep.
Oh boy.
You know, the one player, and I should have asked Mark this too, but you know, the other Wisconsin player that we haven't really talked a whole lot about, and I get it because Stricker's such on a hot streak, but you know, like Jerry Kelly. You know, with his chances over at at Century World.
Sean McKeel is on the senior tour now.
Hmm.
Whoa. Yeah, there are a few. Retief Goosen is on it. Lee Jansen.
Retief Goosen. Yep.
From Austin, Minnesota.
Mm-hmm.
Shout out Spam. Yeah, another local person. Gosh, yeah, it's inevitable.
I did like his little nugget there too. I kind of saw you kind of not the parking when he was talking about the parking thing over at Century World.
Yeah. That's awesome. And
Yeah.
I Google mapped it. Yeah. Like I didn't see the exact lot he's talking about, but yeah, that thing really is like, it's right there. And then UW Stevens Point, and then you're right in the downtown right after that.
Yep.
So that'll be a good one to go to that if you can, if you're listening. Go.
Mhm. Yep. All right, 2 in. We still got to do a little showdown coming up. I'll tell you the years after these quick news updates. Flying on by, third and final hour. Spit it out already on this last day of May 31st. We got your 2 years, and actually, Luke, these are the last 2 years for the second round already.
Oh my gosh,
we're getting through this
Wow.
thing, and it's quite the
Finally.
gap. 67 versus 2001. So we're gonna have a little bit of a gap, but then we move on to the third round.
Okay.
So there you go, and then we should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, just 12 years left.
So that's 12. Then there'll be 6. That's 18. Then about 3, 21. So we should be done sometime around
By
October.
Yeah,
December?
October. No,
Yeah, because
really?
you still got to do the
I
do the 12
suppose.
match. Well, wait,
yeah,
there-
we do this a weekly thing, so you're right.
Yeah, so
okay.
Still, I think if I did my math right.
You're better at math than I am.
I may have screwed that up, so I don't know.
I'll trust you on that one.
Sorry, I just saw this. I'm going through my Twitter feed right now. Grant Bills from the afternoon. He just retweeted Matt Schneider and said, well, good morning. I can't do this one before coffee on the Athletic.
No, like I think Andrew Brandt made a good point too. Beyond the Packers and Aaron drama, vividly shows a difference in leverage, in the leverage equation in sports. An NBA superstar could force his way out in the NFL. The team basically said no. So, which is right.
Yeah,
He
Andy
is
Herman.
absolutely right.
I see Andy Herman saying this will probably be the article of the year when it comes to Packers coverage. All right. I guess it officially is a must read.
So maybe this is kind of a question for like Packers fans. Would you rather have something like this where Aaron is open with his thoughts and, willing to go out there and say that, causes some drama, causes some talking points, or would you rather just be like, you know what? No, just be quiet. And I don't want to know the inner workings, if you will, sort of thing. As if say it was your team, what would your preference be?
Trying to ponder this with Kirk Cousins. I think I'd rather not know.
Mm-hmm.
I don't.
It changes perceptions, especially I think I don't want to speak for him, but like younger kids probably won't know the significance of anything like this.
Thank gosh.
Right. Like if I tried telling Hudson this, I'd have this confused look on his face.
Actually, I want you to tape that and put that online.
I probably should.
Kasper tries to explain to Hudson the Aaron Rodgers debacle.
That actually might be pretty good. That might actually be pretty good.
Who would watch that?
I think the one thing he would probably take out of that whole thing is like, so I don't have to talk to anybody I don't like.
Yeah,
that would be the one thing he will take away from this.
How are we educating our kids? Well, yes, you don't have to talk to anyone you don't like, and you can get moved to a much bigger, higher profile job.
Mm-hmm.
That's all you got to do.
Yep.
Your life goals are all set.
I think you gave me an idea after I picked him up from school today. This is what we're doing.
Oh my God.
And he's going to be pissed off at me that I'm going to have him do that. So
is this going to somehow lead to him making a case for LeBron James?
Probably.
Yes.
I will say though, he did say in the drive-through to pick up a Happy Meal the other day, he wanted to play quarterback for the New York Jets. Although this, in the same breath, he says he'd rather play corner than quarter because he's got, quote, wicked speed and he can tackle. So
it's like you need to say mad skills somewhere in there. Wicked
but that
speed.
was very random because he keeps pestering me about who my second favorite team is right now. And he's like, why isn't it the Jets? I'm like, I don't have a second favorite team. I don't have a second favorite team. I don't.
I mean, you could prefer another team, but it's not your. You have a favorite, and then that's it.
Yeah, and he's got a list of like 10 favorites. So
that's a lot.
But he's like, well, who's your second favorite baseball team? I'm like, I really don't have one, But try to explain that to a soon to be 6-year-old. So
no, that's too difficult.
Yep. But yeah.
Okay. Yes. Tape that today.
All right. Ready to do some stock reports?
Yes. Let's.
Okay. Let's. Where's the? Where is it? Buttons got all moved on because I added some stuff. There we go. All right. I'll give you the honors. Stock risers.
Stock riser. I'm going full homer. You can see the shirt I'm wearing today because we got a window here. Aston Villa. Regular
I thought
season.
you were going with something with Ted Lasso.
No, I'm not. No, come on. That's fake soccer. Let's go with the real.
Have you watched any of that?
Well, I don't have Apple TV.
I don't either,
Plus.
so I don't know.
So no, I've not seen it. Plus, I heard like the latest season is not. I think it's not bad, but it's not as sublime as the first one was. So plan that if I ever do come across Apple TV. But regular season wrapped up on Sunday, and as the saying goes, they I talked about this earlier. They did qualify for Europe. If you know the Premier League, if you're listening and you know the Premier League, you know how that whole thing works. If you don't, gist of it is in the Premier League, they don't have playoffs. Only one team is the champion. Regular season ends. The season's Manchester City is in first place. But the carrot for finishing at the top is you get to go to one of the three big European tournaments. Champions League is the big one we all know about. And there's two others, and if you win in those, then you can step your way up to the Champions League. So that there's prestige finishing there. Aston Villa has not finished high enough in the Premier League in 13 years, which, of course, my fandom, how this works, that was right before I became an Aston Villa fan. That was part of the reason I chose them. What was the season before? I looked at their record and went, oh, they qualified for one of the European tournaments. They're pretty good. Okay. They go on 13 years of almost getting relegated and then getting relegated and coming back and still being mediocre. But they got a new manager in November. They went on a tear, went all the way from the bottom up to 7th. And like I said, they will be in a European tournament next year. That is a big accomplishment. I don't know how to react as a fan. This is weird. Like, they're actually good now. They're like a legit good Premier League soccer team. And I also mentioned this guy before in this segment before. I'll bring him up again. I think he's a co-stock riser. Wes Edens, Bucks co-owner, Aston Villa co-owner. Now his soccer team is that much more valuable by being a European tournament qualifier. He has probably had one of the best track records of taking over a team and then that team having, I don't want to say unprecedented success, but success that had not happened in a long time. Bucks, Aston Villa, two teams that went through some big droughts. He takes over. He's the owner. He's not making day-to-day decisions, but he's overseen some big turnarounds. He's a pretty savvy guy, and he's pretty well liked over in Birmingham, England.
Speaking of relegation, did you hear your boy Paul Allen's comments on relegation?
I did not. What did he say?
He was talking about you kind of use the soccer, but he said that Fox, as in you could use the USFL for NFL relegation. I think it would be amazing if we had that in one of our core 4 leagues. So he mentioned Everton.
Yes.
Everton is one of maybe 3 or 4 teams that have never been relegated. They've never been good enough to win the whole thing, but they've never been bad enough to be relegated. It's kind of Minnesota Vikings-like in a way.
Yes. That's actually a really good analogy.
First of all, Paul, cut your hair, man. I mean, that's just looking bad.
He
now.
is looking more interesting of late, I will say.
Yeah. But he goes on to kind of, first of all, that would never happen.
No.
The NFL would never relegate.
You can't do relegation right. You can't do it in American sports anyway because our model is fundamentally different. The model over in the UK and a lot of other countries is that these teams are ultimately club teams formed by fans, in a lot of cases going back to the 1800s, that the fans are really the caretakers. They've evolved into big businesses like modern professional sports, but the structure has been this way forever. Whereas here we have leagues where you have an ownership group, the club, as we call it, and they let in certain numbers. So that's why you have, like in Major League Baseball, the Oakland A's. The A's this year actually kind of remind me of the year Aston Villa got relegated, and they were horrible. They were like way worse than any of the other 19 teams the year they got relegated. That's how bad the A's are this year. They really should be relegated down to AAA baseball and have, I'll just say the St. Paul Saints because they're the first one that comes to mind because they're pretty close. But yeah, someone like that, bring them up or something, but that would never happen. I will say, though, it'd make the regular season a lot more relevant because every game counts. You pay a lot more attention the whole season through because I know that as a Premier League fan, But I don't know if you saw the standings. Your Wolves are definitely.
I've been
Yeah,
following
right. Yes, I figured every Saturday morning you were watching Sci-Fi or USA. No,
wait, Sci-Fi.
I think Sci-Fi has games because they're part of NBC Universal.
The Sci-Fi channel has,
I think,
soccer games.
Sci-Fi Premier League. I mean, obviously, it doesn't matter now because we're going into the summer. Overflow channels include CNBC, Sci-Fi, and Bravo. Kind of like the Olympics
or like March Madness with True TV.
Yes, that's exactly it. So yeah, they're probably. I'm sure the Sci-Fi diehards are like, yeah, okay, it's Saturday morning.
Yeah, that really seems to be the total opposite end of the spectrum.
Yeah. Oh, so it's Crystal Palace and Nottingham Forest. Cool. All right, we'll get to watch this for 2 hours.
Well, Nottingham Forest can be a little Robin Hood-esque.
Yeah. Okay. So there's a tie in there, but yes, your Wolves are going to be back next year. You'll get to play. But side note, I love the whole Luton Town story. They were the ones that got promoted, and I don't know if you saw the ESPN article that was going around in the days leading up to that. It was the playoff game. It's called the richest game in sports because the winner gets the final Premier League promotion spot, and of course, Premier League money's like over 100 million. You get just like that as a team. But their stadium hasn't been updated since 2005. Think of it like if Carson Park were maybe a little bigger. And still in good shape, but a little bigger. But imagine if next year it was going to then host Major League Baseball games for 81 games a year. This is going to be a bit of a culture shock in that stadium. The notion of like Arsenal fans and Manchester United fans walking through this old housing development and snaking their way into this tiny stadium is hilarious. But it'll be fun to watch next year. I think relegation would be a lot of fun. It will never happen in the United States. Not even Major League Soccer. They're not going to do that. They're the same thing. It's not going to happen.
My stock riser was it was before we were chatting with Mark and such, but it was Steve Stricker coming off of another playoff win over Hinghington this past weekend. He's gotten 2 of the championships. He could get the third leg in his home freaking state. The advantage has to be Steve Stricker in a few weeks here. And I remember too, with the Ryder Cup captain, that was a few years ago, he was very ill right after that. Remember that story? He had that, that illness where it was looking kind of scary there for a little bit. And you're seeing the career he's having now in just these last couple of years and what he's doing now with TPC Wisconsin down in the southern part. Is it Cherokee? I think it is the golf course down there. But stock riser is Steve Stricker for me. And that was before I had that pick.
So he's not, is he in any halls of fame?
I don't think so. I don't want to say that. Let me bring it up here.
I was going to say, could he play his way, as we were talking about last hour about how he's seemingly performing better in the Champions Tour than on the original PGA Tour. Could he play his way into like the professional or whatever the assorted? I mean, like if there's a Wisconsin Golf Hall of Fame,
I know he's in the Wisconsin Golf Association Hall of Fame. Yeah, but I think it is at the World Golf Hall of Fame. Yeah, let me see if I can find the members of the World Golf Hall of Fame, because that one
a bit of a reach. I think you probably have to win majors to get there, but it's a possibility.
Let me see if they have their. Oh, come on, make it an easy website, please.
Of course, it's not.
Right. Now it can't be reached.
Of course it can.
All right, I'll try it on my phone, maybe.
Okay.
So,
but
yeah.
he's moving in the right direction. Yeah, the definite stock ascender.
Stock faller.
Well, I'm going to go with that National League West team that, with a little bit of underperformance, might allow the Brewers to sneak in. Even if the Brewers trade off players, maybe they could still get in a wild card, because this team's just not going to end the season. Just like I was talking about an NL West team, but I'm apparently wrong in the actual team. Not the Dodgers, it's the Padres. What's up, guys? It's like pick your player that's supposed to be a potential MVP guy that's underperforming. I mean, I know Machado's in the IL and Soto's, I guess, getting better. When Fernando Tatis Jr. was going to come back, that was going to nope. Xander Bogaerts is cool. Those are the 4 big guys, and they're like leader in one of the WAR categories is none of the 4 on that team. Their pitching is not that great. Josh Hader, I think, is their most valuable pitcher think he might have the best pitcher WAR at this point, which is okay, good if you have a really good reliever. The problem is getting there. Joe Musgrove's not pitching well. Blake Snell, I mean, it's a joke what's going on. Do you like what I just did?
Yeah.
Blake Snell, thank you. But they're not. They got a good manager too, and it's not connecting. I don't know what's wrong with that team. Now, look, there's 2/3 of a season to go. Plenty of time to recover. It is starting to go. All Yogi Berra is starting to get late early, but they're not pulling out of the slump yet. And like I said, Brewer related, Milwaukee can hang on. I've had some rough stretch of late, but they still need to be overtaken. Well, the rest of the National League isn't that great either. The Padres falling might give the Brewers an outlet. I thought it was going to be the case with the Dodgers. It might be the Padres.
You think, I know John Hyman was talking a little bit about it, and nothing newsworthy or breaking or anything like that at this point. But I think they trade Corbin Burns before the deadline. Because he had mentioned, too, just to paraphrase a little bit, like, they did the Hater one. Look how that worked out for them a little bit. So a little apprehensive.
This gets to the fundamental question. Do you want to make the playoffs this year, or do you want to be in position to make the playoffs for like the next 2 years? Which, if you think about that, that's actually a pretty good 50-50, because you're like, well, okay, we missed the playoffs this year, but you make it this year and then it doesn't. It's like a more of a 50-50 approach than we're all in this year. We're going to spend redunculous amounts of money, and then we're going to pull a Florida Marlin circa 1997 and fire sale it, and then be at the bottom of baseball. It's not quite the Brewers' case, but the way that this team is set up, based on the financials of baseball, sell high might be the best approach if you want the Brewers to still be around first place, as opposed to being in last place for 3 or 4 years in a row. I think that's a legit question to ask. The other thing is, not every year are you going to have to be trading away a guy because he's a year and a half away from free agency. At some point, you're going to have a 2021 when you can go all in. So I think they do it, though, because they want to get as many assets as possible. I think, like I said, one of the three, Burns, Woodruff, Adames, is going to go, and I don't know if all three will go. I think 2 of the 3 are going to be talked about a lot, and 1 for sure.
I'm going to go stack down here a little New York Knicks. They're parting ways with their general manager, Scott Perry. And the Knicks actually had a decent season, I think, kind of surpassed some expectations this year. And for a franchise, we were just talking about Madison Square Garden, for a franchise that has been rock bottom for a while, and they actually have a little bit of success. And it's not to say Perry's been, great in a lot of his moves in that. But to move on from him after actually making the postseason and making a little bit of a run seems like a typical Knicks move at this point, because we don't like success.
This typical James Dolan move. Little surprised Knicks fans aren't, like all angry because they couldn't get past the second round of the playoffs. Gosh, those guys could.
Probably still upset they didn't get Katie and Kyrie Irving, which, let's face it, probably worked out. Maybe, possibly.
Simmons and Russillo on their pod the other day are still like, really? If you bring in Kyrie Irving, that's going to be your solution to any given team that's been bounced around. Like, hey, maybe the solution. I'm tangenting here blatantly, but Kyrie to the Lakers, that'll be the solution. What? Really? We're still doing this? Knicks are gonna nick. It's LOL Knicks. That's the thing. At first, I did think you were referencing Josh Hart. Which let's just say, Google it. If you're on Twitter, look it up. You'll see what we mean. I kind of half thought that's where you were going with this one, but you went with the far more relevant Knicks criticism.
Yeah.
The Josh Hart thing is just okay.
Yeah, go Google it. Go Google it. So, speaking of hoops, I was we were talking a little bit about it yesterday, but the Adrian Griffin hire for the Bucks, did it surprise you that they went with
a little bit
a first timer? But it kind of relates again to what Andrew Brandt, I think, said about comparing the NBA to the NFL, where the NBA it's a superstar league. I think the fact that it's been reported that Giannis gave him his endorsement, that was Giannis's favorite, well, that sign seal delivered it all at that point.
I then checked.
It's like the whole Aaron Rodgers like upset that they hired Matt LaFleur, or even remember when Favre was there and they hired, was it Mike McCarthy, but they wanted Steve Mariucci.
Yeah, his buddy Mooch.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Not the NBA, Brett. NFL.
Well, that's essentially what Brandt was tweeting a little earlier, like about this athletic or about the Matt Schneiderman story. In NBA, superstar gets what he wants. NFL team just says nope.
Yep.
That's how it works. I went around to try to find some of the the regular Bucks Twitter folks, and I got distracted before I finished. I can think of like No Tech Ben and a couple of the others on Twitter that are fairly tuned in on the Bucks. But I did get to Paul Henning, had on the show before, and he said it kind of makes him nervous because he's getting the impression that different people in the hierarchy of the Bucks, shall we say, wanted different people.
Reminds you a little bit about the when they hired John Horst.
Yes. So I wonder here, because it sure seemed like it was a Nick Nurse thing was going to happen. We thought that that was the first thought I think most everyone had the moment you got the alert that Coach Bud was fired. You're like, oh, it's going to be Nick Nurse. And everything was kind of moving in that direction, even though you didn't hear his name until late. You figured, well, this is kind of leaning this way, and then it's not. Paul Henning said, and it's just his take, but he said it makes him nervous that Giannis had so much of a say, and he's not far from an anti-Giannis person, but is that really the one you want to have make the final choice? It should be ultimately the general manager, to a degree ownership, but it's really the general manager's choice. And the general manager is hired to then hire a coach.
Few things stood out to me from what's being thrown out there. One was, it reminded me when they hired Bud, it was Giannis and Chris Middleton met up with dinner for so that tells you one, Middleton's back.
Yeah.
You're not involving Middleton on those if you're involving him on the decision. So Middleton's back. I don't know if you saw Sam Mitchell's comments about it.
I did not. What did he say?
So Sam Mitchell compared Adrian Griffin a lot to Darvin Ham, who is now the head coach for the Lakers. The three things were toughness, defensive mindedness, and developing younger players.
Okay.
Which I think if you look at Milwaukee, and we were looking at it yesterday, when was the last time they actually developed a younger player not named Giannis?
It's been a while.
I mean, so if now with you got a lot of money, and tied up with a few players, you need some younger players to step up and fill bigger roles. Now, and I didn't realize this, Jimmy Butler was actually, when he was with the Bulls, was pushing for Adrian Griffin to get the head coaching job for the Bulls when they were down there together.
And he's been talked about as a potential coach for a while.
The other thing, what was it? I just blanked on it now. But those were like the three, I think, things that stood out in terms of what Adrian Griffin brings as a coach. Defense, tough personality, and then bringing up the youngsters. The other part goes back to, remember that first report about the Bucks were looking at current head coaches, and we were trying to figure out who it was?
Yeah.
I really wonder if they tried Darvin Ham. If they tried to bring him back, because Bobby Portis a couple weeks ago tweeted out, I'm paraphrasing, doesn't get talked enough about, Darvin Ham was a big reason why they failed this year.
Wow.
So it almost makes you wonder, did they really try to maybe get Darvin Ham?
Yeah, because it was like Doc Rivers was the obvious one.
Ty Lue was getting thrown out there.
Wow. The Monty Williams thing.
I was throwing out Taylor Jenkins from Memphis since he was an assistant with the Bucks.
Right, and the whole disaster that has been the Grizzlies offseason.
Yeah, this was the tweet from Bobby Portis. Only thing hurt us was D Ham leaving. That ain't talked about enough. That was back on May 17th.
Darvin Ham has been praised a fair amount of late as a coach with the Lakers. I think he might end up being around there for a while. presuming LeBron doesn't decide that he wants to bring in some other person or whatever. I think if he can, I think Darvin Ham has the potential, and actually this is a good LeBron tie. And I'm not trying to be like anti-LeBron here, but it's just we know how the whole thing goes. But you know how Eric Spoelstra's reputation has skyrocketed post LeBron, where you probably say, like, not probably, he is a top 5 NBA coach right now.
I'd say you could honestly, if I were ranking him, I might put him number 1.
Right. I think you can beyond arguably put him at the top. You might get some pop and Kerr, right? But you can say Spoelstra. I don't think people are going to eye roll you. Whereas in 2010,
the amount of roster turnover Spoelstra has had, and yet still,
yeah. Right. So I wonder if something, I don't know, but maybe something similar happens with Darvin Ham post LeBron. If the Lakers can stay competitive, which I don't want to make it sound like, oh, the poor Lakers, they will always be a destination to a certain degree. Right now, it's a little skewed because of LeBron James's excellence, his unicorn nature. We're not really seeing what it's like to have some massive star come in there. I mean, think about it in terms of Laker eras before LeBron. I mean, there were the years in the weeds, but then before that it was Kobe, who was developed in Los Angeles and became a star. And they brought in Shaq, and then they brought in Pau Gasol. But I do wonder if Darvin Ham starts to get a better rep. Another thing interesting you say about developing young players, I don't know if this is necessarily the mindset, but I'm going to go back to that same podcast I was listening to, the Bill Simmons pod. And he and Ryan Russillo were spending a good amount of time over the weekend talking about the new CBA and this like second tier apron of the luxury tax. And now if you get past that, that's going to obliterate your options for the following season in terms of cash you can send in, send out, mid-level guy. There's a lot you can't do. Stockpiling really talented players like what the Warriors have done, what to a degree the Bucks have kind of done, will not be possible. And those sorts of teams are going to really have to adjust how they've built their team. This is going to act a lot more like a hard cap. The Bucks are probably not going to be able to keep Brook Lopez.
Right.
Period. So how do you get around this? You basically, you can have, as they put it, you probably can afford to have a big 2 going forward. And after that, not even a middle class, you're going to have to fill in the blanks at the bottom. Well, if that means developing a lot of young talent, probably want to have that guy because the Bucks are not going to be as veteran of a team. There's going to be a transition. They may need to go through a couple so-so-ish years to get there. If Griffin is a good enough coach, this might be the sort of thing that's necessary to bridge the Bucks over to hopefully the second and probably final Giannis era, which that's fine. That's usually players usually have 2 good eras. Jordan had that, etc. Kobe kind of had that. That might be what's necessary, where you can't surround him with 30-year-old grizzled veterans anymore. You can't do that.
Right. Really couple of things here. So speaking of like Eric Spoelstra and I guess to a sense Pat Riley, this is a ridiculous number. Pat Riley has now been a part of 25% of the NBA Finals in league history. Did you see that number? 3 times as a player, 10 times as a coach, and 6 times now as an executive. That's 19 times. Here's a nugget I did not know. Since we were just talking about Eric Spoelstra, and this kind of relates back to the Aaron Rodgers thing here a little bit now. I didn't know about this, but Pat Riley, this was from Hoops Herald. They posted this a day ago. Quote, "You don't ever come in my office and tell me to fire a coach." That was what Pat Riley reportedly defended Eric Spoelstra from the Miami Heat players that were trying to get him fired.
When was that?
They posted this a day ago. It's not an article, so I'll have to do some digging to find when that was.
Wow.
But,
I mean, Pat,
which is kind of ironic though too, isn't it? Because Pat Riley and the Stan Van Gundy thing
didn't,
you know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
With Shaq and D Wade, and
it was yeah, so it can happen. But now this also does mean, I guess, the one asterisk on Eric Spoelstra is Pat Riley's been there the whole time. How much of this is Pat Riley? But that's also player acquisition. Then you got to do well on the court too, and that's what Spoelstra does really well. On that note about Riley and being coach with the Lakers, somewhat related. When the stat may have gone around when the Lakers lost to the Nuggets, but I just saw this the other day. They have not lost a conference finals since 1998. Yeah, I mean, and they've been in a lot of them since, not all the time, but pretty frequently. But they have this. This is like almost uncharted territory for the Lakers to have gotten this far and then not get over the hump. It's pretty rare.
So this was I just kind of did a really quick Google because I know we got to take a break. In 2010, Eric Spoelstra was tasked with leading a team that featured LeBron, Dwayne Wade, and Chris Bosh. At the time, the Heat had 3 of the top 10 players in the league, but they started 9-8. And Pat Riley said LeBron James had plans of firing Eric Spoelstra. Riley made the revelations in the book, The Soul of Basketball. They just said, we're not feeling it or something like that. We talked about the typical things that we have to do, have patience and all that stuff. And I remember LeBron looking at me and he said, don't you ever get the itch? I said, the itch for what? He said, the itch to coach again. I said, no, I don't have the itch. He didn't ask any more questions and I didn't offer any more answers. But I know what it meant. And I always go back and wonder about what he was thinking at the time. He walked out scratching his leg like it was itching. Okay. All right, so
LeBron like trying to like do a demonstrative thing. What the heck was that?
Wow. That's okay.
Why is this reminding me of Aaron Rodgers all of a sudden?
Right. I was just
this really subtle sort of like, oh.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
guess sometimes
Oh.
to be great, you got to really think you're great too.
Yeah.
Okay. It happens. I know.
Okay. We got to take a break and then we'll do
Got an itch apparently.
Yeah. We got the itch to do a quick edition of Showdown, the final one in the second round after these quick words. All right, quick edition of Showdown. It's the final matchup in the second round before we move on to the third round here. It's 1967 versus 2001. So we got a little bit of a gap here, but nonetheless, let's break it down here. So we'll start off with sports. 1967. Well, let's go to football. December 31st of 1967. The Green Bay Packers defeated the Dallas Cowboys in the NFL Championship in a now legendary game at Lambeau Field, known as the Ice Bowl. Super Bowl II was in 1968, but you had the Ice Bowl going on there. So, also you had the Raiders defeated the Oilers 40-7 in the American Football League Championship to set up that Super Bowl II. Baseball, the Cardinals 4-3 over the Boston Red Sox. Bob Gibson was the series MVP. That was the year too that the Kansas City Athletics became the Oakland Athletics for the 68 season there too. So
remember too, football. It's also the year of Super Bowl I.
True. Yeah, you're right. Yep.
It's a pretty good year to be a Packer fan.
It was. Is that enough to advance 67?
They got Super Bowl I and the Ice Bowl.
Yep. That's pretty not too shabby. Basketball, NCAA, UCLA defeated Dayton 79-64. The 76ers in the NBA Finals defeated the San Francisco Warriors 4-2. Let's go with, this was also when Muhammad Ali was stripped of his World Heavyweight Championship titles and banned from boxing by various commissions for his refusal to be inducted into the United States Army. Golf, Jack Nicklaus won the U.S. Open that year. And let's go with hockey. The Toronto Maple Leafs defeated the Montreal Canadiens 4-2.
It was expansion year. It's when
they had 6 teams, right?
North Stars and the Blues were that year, Flyers that year. All came about, and 3 others as well. But that started in 67.
I've never heard of this sport before. Amateur radio direction finding?
Not say that I've heard of that one either.
5th Amateur Radio Direction Finding European Championship. It's an amateur racing sport that combines radio direction finding with the map and compass skills of orienteering. It's a timed race in which individual competitors use a map, a magnetic compass, and radio direction finding apparatus.
Okay.
That is old school.
That is.
Wow. Anything else for 67?
I believe that's everything. I'm trying to think more locally speaking. I mean, there were no Brewers or Braves at that point.
Were the Bucks 1967?
Bucks were not yet in existence. But yeah, the Packers kind of weigh heavy on that one.
2001, that was the Baltimore Ravens dominating the Giants in their Super Bowl. I think, though, too, when it comes to 2001, you got to mention 9/11 with the sports world, right? A little bit.
And all the things between the Bush pitch and the Piazza home run. Yeah, that stood out a lot.
Yep. This was also the debut of some guy named Tom Brady. He made his debut in 2001, soon to be starting quarterback for the Las Vegas Raiders and part owner. Would it really surprise you if that happened?
Not really.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't expect it to, but it's not going to be a stunner.
Right. Perhaps my favorite World Series, the Diamondbacks versus the Yankees.
In the running for best World Series ever. That's up there with 91, 75, 2016, 60, probably a couple others. 01 was an absolute.
I remember staying up late and watching it, Game 7 on my little tube TV in Medford with the volume down so I could sneak in watching it. You know, Kurt Schilling, Roger Clemens, Randy Johnson comes in relief after pitching Game 6. Luis Gonzalez hitting the walk-off against Mariano Rivera. Yeah, I loved that World Series. Loved it.
That was incredible. Young Kim giving up those home runs, multiple games.
Yep.
Oh my gosh, it was just so much drama in that series.
I remember watching the NBA Finals clear as day, too. That was the Lakers defeating the 76ers. That was AI stepping over Ty Lue in game 1.
Oh yeah, after the NBA defeated the Bucks in the Eastern Conference Finals.
Sure.
Yeah.
I was not a Bucks fan then, so yeah, I was okay with that.
Okay.
Two reasons why I was not a Bucks fan: George Karl and Sam Cassell.
Okay, understandable.
Those were my reasons.
I get it. At that point, sure.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah, and I was still, in my Orlando fandom.
Right. They were still relevant enough. Hey, they just gotten
T-Mac and Grant Hill and that.
Super team. Here we go. Championships.
I remember getting the Slam magazines that summer and just buying into the hype because they would do the predictions for the Eastern Conference.
Yeah.
And was that also the summer of? No, this would have been before. Maybe the whole Tim Duncan coming to Orlando.
I'm trying.
It might have been around this because Duncan was drafted in '97, so it might have been around here.
Trying to think. Well, Grant Hill went in 2000.
Okay, so
but it was around that time.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember exactly when, but I do remember the hype of him going to Orlando, and
it was what could have been.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Could have been. This actually probably worked out really well for T-Mac because he was supposed to be like the third fiddle, and he ended up being the number one fiddle in that whole thing. So
would have been the Chris Bosh of that team.
Mm-hmm. We got what else? We had Duke beating Arizona in the NCAA championship.
Or Minneapolis.
Jordan came back.
Oh yeah, forgot about that.
Came back that year too. So
Brewers were putrid that year. That was the Davey Lopes era.
Good year for Tiger.
Yeah.
First golfer in history to hold all 4 major championship titles at the same time.
So really what we're debating here, because I'm thinking if there was much else of note, if I might be forgetting, but really it's essentially Tiger and the 01 World Series versus
Packers.
The Packers. Super Bowl I and the Ice Bowl. I mean, the Ice Bowl is the Ice Bowl.
I'm telling you, man, this is hard for me.
It is. I think this one might be more depth to 01, but without 67, there's a lot of reputation that I like. Honestly, if the 01 World Series never happened, I don't know that necessarily changes the story of baseball. That's a weird way to put that.
Right.
I think there might have actually.
What if I phrase it this way? What is Kurt Schilling more known for, that World Series or Boston?
It's the bloody sock.
Yeah, it's Boston.
And in terms of big baseball moments, I just listed the 2: the Piazza home run and George W. Bush throwing the pitch at Yankee Stadium.
Mm-hmm.
Those are more relevant. And I know one of them was at the World Series, but whereas the Ice Bowl is the Ice Bowl.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, Super Bowl I for crying out loud.
Yeah,
so.
which actually, I mean, it wasn't that.
It was probably the only one that was like not sold out.
Yeah,
but,
and it wasn't that great of a game. It was a bad game either. But I mean, it's more the history of it when we look at in retrospect. And by the way, the 67 World Series is a pretty good World Series as well. Bob Gibson was like stupidly dominant at that point.
Mm-hmm. But that Tiger 01 year was pretty dominant too.
But then Tiger 2000 was even more.
That's
as
true.
We've discussed.
I'm going to go 67,
I think so. Because, again, the Ice Bowl doesn't advance.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to get tougher, but narrowly.
Yeah. Well, maybe 67 doesn't advance. Depends on the other two categories.
We'll see.
So,
yeah. Though 1967 at Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band and the Monterey Pop Festival, and 2001 had that remake of What's Going On with Limp Bizkit.
Oh, gosh.
And NSYNC album with Pop. You kind of see where I'm going here. Hey, it was the year that Murder Inc. first started to really take over. Ja Rule started to own the radio towards the end of the year.
Oh, man. I'm looking at movies right now. This might be a sweep for 67.
Yeah.
I
didn't even say 67-1, but I think I just kind of did.
Yeah.
J-Lo remixes. Sorry. Anyway, go back to the movies.
So like 67, you had Dirty Dozen, The Graduate. You had The Jungle Book, the animated one. If you were a kid, you watched it all the time. Yeah. Bonnie and Clyde, Warren Beatty, Faye Dunaway. In the Heat of the Night, Sidney Poitier.
Yeah. Gosh, that's a good movie.
Right. So you had those top, and then 2001 Casino Royale.
Now, okay, now and depends on who you ask. Some people say that it's just not good. I'm squarely in pro Casino Royale camp. Then again, I was a kid when I watched that movie, and of course, I like the humor of that. But but hey, Look of Love came out of that, and that is an icon of a song.
And then 2001. Unless they're still making them, but Fast and the Furious. Probably led though by, two big time. If you're into this genre, Harry Potter and then Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
Those are two big time
movies.
Then you had A Beautiful Mind. Okay.
That's a good
Shrek,
one.
Ocean's 11, Pearl Harbor that was okay. I still I think 67 is more top heavy.
I think so.
So
there's more that's Shrek has held up pretty well. And of course,
classics in 67 though.
That's the thing. Lord of the Rings has held up better than Harry Potter.
You think so?
Well,
Harry Potter's on all the time on Sci-Fi.
It is. I think part of it.
Don't ask me why I know that either.
For your sci-fi analysis here. I'm not going to go down the road of the whole Harry Potter thing because I think you know where I would be going with that. Do
we need to have a debate of Harry Potter versus Lord of the Rings?
No.
I'll tell you what would win in our house.
Right. And I think if you judge them just based on the stories and not
the movies,
well, J.K. Rowling and that whole thing, she's become a lightning rod. I think that's harming the reputation to a degree.
Mm-hmm.
But that's also not fair to the story of Harry Potter versus Lord of the Rings. If we're starting to get into authors and all the, well, that can be a whole nother discussion. And yeah, if we're just talking quality of the movies, I've never been a Harry Potter person, to be perfectly honest. I'm not anti. I tried watching one of the movies. It's just like Lord of the Rings. I got a little more into. Now, granted, my wife was having me watch all three of them because she was really into them. But when all three were done, I'm like, worth it. So I think I'm more Lord of the Rings. Plus, I do have remember reading The Hobbit as a kid.
I read The Hobbit as a kid in 6th grade, which is really weird because then I read the first Harry Potter one in 8th grade.
Okay.
Those are the only two books that I've read from those groups.
Okay.
I will. I based off our listeners, I think I'll be in the minority. Majority's going to be with you. I prefer Harry Potter movie-wise.
Okay.
Movie-wise, the Harry Potter series to Lord of the Rings.
Now, if I watched a whole Harry Potter, like I said, I haven't even gotten through.
Mostly around Christmas time.
Okay, I can see that. So,
we're not getting in a debate if Harry Potter's a Christmas movie either.
We've only just settled Die Hard in
Right.
the last 2 years, and we're still working on The Nightmare Before Christmas. We don't want to go a third direction here. That the Harry Potter Christmas debate's going to go for like 15 years at least.
Mm-hmm. It pretty much boils down to if they acknowledge Christmas in a movie, is it a Christmas movie?
This is like when we play. This is like when we play Christmas songs of Greatest Hits 98.1. If you mention Christmas in a song, it counts.
Ooh. So Rocky IV is a Christmas
was
movie.
Falling Christmas Eve.
Yeah, Rocky IV is a
Bam!
Christmas
song. Like, so I could write a song that just has as a throwaway mention of Christmas and I could get played a ton of times in December on the radio.
Yep.
Whoa, cool.
Rocky. That's why I said if Die Hard's a Christmas movie, Rocky IV is a Christmas movie. He takes down the commies on Christmas. Come on. Soviets.
I'm a little surprised that's not been mentioned more frequently.
Thank you. I will die on that hill.
Precedent.
We'll die on that hill.
Yeah.
He saved the world on Christmas Day. If I could change, you can change. Everybody can change.
Is 1985 still in the running?
Oh,
Figure it
I'll
out
let
on
you
the
know.
break.
Coming up, yeah. Great question. Somebody asked Matt Schneidman on Twitter. How'd you get a hold of Aaron? Did he FaceTime him? It's a fair question.
Yeah.
It's a very valid question.
Does he like you?
That's the other thing, too. He probably does like him. So, yeah.
By the way, Richie, I'm sorry. Hard disagree on this one.
What?
Last Christmas is not a Christmas song, and it's a terrible song. I'm more upset with the second part than the first one. Because I get it. I mean, it's basically George Michael talking about a lover who's like jilted him, and now they got to hang out at a party.
You are the music expert in this entire building, so I will defer to you on every single music thing.
That is one of my core songs I have to listen to every Christmas season. That and Wonderful Christmas Time, and I know they're polarizing. Sorry, I am pro both.
Unless you're Dave Grohl from Foo Fighters, you're probably second on my music aficionado. By the way, did you catch any tracks? I asked Morgan this for the new Foo Fighters album.
I have heard, I think, 2 of the songs, the ones that are both
the 2 that have been released. Yeah.
Is it wrong that I'm like, hey, we get to hear Dave Grohl play the drums? I mean, look, Taylor Hawkins should still be alive. Yeah. Yes. But Dave Grohl has not played drums, I think, since like the mid 2000s or no. I think it's the late 90s on a Foo Fighters album.
Mm-hmm.
And I like to hear him play the drums too. Just wish there was some way we could do it both without what happened. So, yeah,
not in concert, but on the album.
On the album would be, but
that's Dave on the drums.
Wish could have been better circumstances. Obviously.
How are those trending, by the way? 10 seconds.
That first Foo Fighters song,
Under You. Do you know?
I don't know about the second one. I know the first one's like already like number 1 on the rock charts. So, good.
Foo Fighters rule. Have a good day. We'll talk to you tomorrow.